So on behalf of IACN and Changing the Way We Care, again, a warm welcome. And I would now like to request Ms. Rita Parnikar, founder and executive director, Butterflies, to please come here and give us welcome note to everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Kavita. Finally, we are all here. Huh? This has taken a few years, but nevertheless, we are here today. So again, a good afternoon to everyone and to all our virtual friends who are there. Thank you for joining us today for the roundtable and launch of the Family Strengthening in India Framework and Guidance document. On behalf of India Alternate Care Network and Changing the Way We Care, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you, those present in the room and those joining us virtually. As we all know, family is the fundamental social institution crucial for societal stability. Families are vital for Family is a fundamental social institution crucial for societal stability. Families are vital for socialization, development, transmitting culture, providing emotional support to children. They are the cornerstone of a child's life. Today, we are all here because we share a common belief that family is the best place for children to grow, thrive, and reach their fullest potential. We are also encouraged to see that the Government of India increasingly acknowledges this, incorporating family-based care into its policies, programs, and schemes. It is now widely accepted that the primary responsibility for a child's care and protection lies with the family. In alignment with this vision, IACN, committed to promoting family-based care, recognized the need for a guiding and evolving framework on how families can be supported and strengthened with recognizing their agency. Today, we are excited to formally launch this very document. Shortly, Ms. Beth Bradford will walk us through the key features of the framework and guidance document and how it can be used by various stakeholders. Before that, I would like to briefly share the journey that brought us here. The process began in 2019 with a desk review and interviews conducted by Butterflies in collaboration with Changing the Way We Care and Catholic Relief Services. The scoping study explored the opportunities and challenges in family-based care across Delhi, Odisha, and Tamil Nadu. Following this, a roundtable was organized in Bhubaneswar, Chennai, and finally Delhi by Udayan Care and CRS, where the findings were shared and discussed. One of the key outcomes from these efforts was the realization that while valuable practices exist, there was no cohesive framework guiding family strengthening initiatives. This led to several rounds of discussions, and I'm sure some of us sitting in this room would know the number of discussions we had and consultations and additional desk reviews to capture existing knowledge, models, and practices from both government and civil society organizations across India. The outcome resulted in the development of a compendium documenting non-institutional alternative care practices aimed at preventing separation and supporting families to stay together. These studies and discussions highlighted that there is still a need for a guiding framework for family strengthening interventions. IACN and CTWWC then organized a wider online consultation, receiving overwhelming support from participating organizations. This led to the idea of creating the framework and guidance document we are launching today. We are immensely grateful to Changing the Way We Care and Catholic Relief Services for taking the lead in drafting the initial version. It aligns closely with IACN's core mandate, and we feel fortunate to have partnered with them on this shared journey. The document underwent multiple reviews by the Family Strengthening and Gatekeeping Working Group and the Steering Committee of IACN. With their valuable feedback, the final version took shape, and we are proud to present to you today the document. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Senthil Kumarji, Mr. Manoranjan Das, and Jomi Joseph from CTWWC for their technical leadership and CRS. You're both the same. But I should not miss saying CRS. UNICEF, especially Ms. Vandana Kandari and Mr. Prabhat Kumar, for their constant guidance and support. It's been a long journey, I have to tell you, from 2019 onwards. And Ms. Beth Bradford for capturing our discussions, ideas, and collective vision in the writing of the document. My heartfelt thanks also goes to the IACN Steering Committee and Working Group for their contributions and thoughtful feedback throughout the process. Once again, thank you all for being here. We hope this document proves to be a useful resource for all stakeholders working to strengthen families and protect children. Lastly, I would like to thank our esteemed speakers, moderators, and panelists who have joined us today to share their insights and experiences. Your contributions are vital in shaping a stronger ecosystem where children can grow up surrounded by the love and support of their parents, grandparents, siblings, and extended families. Thank you so much. I didn't know that you had that on the screen. You know, okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's so much to discover about you. I didn't know it. Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful warm welcome and sharing with us the history behind this document. Now the moment for which we all have gathered here for the launch of the booklet. I would request Mr. Elvin to please share a copy of a booklet with everyone, and along with that, I would request our guests to be here. I would just name them. I would request Mr. Senthil G. Kurmar to be here with us on DICE. Ms. Rita Panikar. Ms. Vandana Kandari from UNICEF. Please come here, ma'am. I would request Ms. Vijayalakshmi Arora to be here on the dais. Mr. Satya Ranjan Sahu. And Mr. Chunya from Jharkhand, Odisha. You can just stand. Okay. Second slide. I would request the guests to please do the honors and launch the event today. Launch the booklet today.
Either you should come and say that.
Beth, I would also ask Beth to please switch on the camera. Congratulations, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And the people who have joined us online, can I just request somebody if they are able to see the PPT? Meet Beth Bradford. She's also behind the document.
Not yet. We can't see the PPT.
Yeah, I'm just switching to the PPT.
Yeah, you just said.
PPT. Yes, the people who have joined online, they can scan this QR code and they can find the document online. It's available on our website, IACN. Our website is www.iacn.in. So very, very congratulate to all the people who were behind this document, to the team of CRS, Changing the Way We Care, Butterflies, and Udyan Care for the behind the work that they have done. A special thanks to Beth Bradford and the Vijay Lakshmi ma'am. I know that they are here, they were behind this document, and what we are seeing today is the outcome of a long journey. And also to Mr. Senthil G. Kumar, he has done a lot of vetting, proofreading, and all those things. So thank you, sir. Thank you. And now we will move forward for the first session. So what this document is and how it can be used, what are the key features of this document. So for doing that, we have Miss Beth Bradford with us. Beth, do we have you online? I would
Yeah.
request.
Yes, hello.
Can you just show Beth online? Yes. Okay. Hi, Beth. Hi. So
Hello.
she will walk us through the document, about the key features of the document, how it can be used for family strengthening. So over to you, Beth. Just let me know when to change the slides.
Thank you, Kavita. I don't think we can see the slides anymore for some reason. Can someone confirm online if you can see the slides?
Not yet.
Not yet. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here with you today to launch this important framework and document. Maybe just while we're waiting for the slides to come up, I can reintroduce myself. Actually saw many of you in person just recently. Beth Bradford from Maestral International. Changing the Way We Care is a partnership of organizations. And so I represent the main partner. And just really excited that this framework is finally being launched. As has been said, so much time and energy went into it for the last many years. And I also just want to confirm that it's really based on evidence from all around the world, with close consideration for the context of India. But I'm also just really excited to see many of the concepts that are considered so important in many countries around the world reflected also in this framework. Thank you to IACN, Changing the Way We Care India, for inviting me to be part of this launch. It's been a process very near and dear to my heart, so I'm glad to be here. So without further ado, let's jump into learning a little bit about what the framework is about, what it entails, and how it can be used. We could go to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Maybe someone in the room, it looks like in the
Filling out
chat.
the technical error. Just give us a minute, Beth.
Okay.
People who have joined online can just tell me if they are able to see the slides. No?
No, we're not seeing the
Not so
slides.
far, Kavita.
Okay, I'll just figure out it. Just give me a minute. I'm so sorry for the technical glitch.
well, perhaps just to fill in the space and not have silence while we're waiting for those slides, I'll continue on. One of the most important aspects to highlight is what we mean by family when we talk about family strengthening and this particular framework. It is really built within the frame of family, understanding that as the caring circle around a child, those who surround a child and provide the daily emotional, physical, and psychological care. In cultures across the world, family can have varied understandings. It's varied based on culture, varied on circumstances. Often family is more than parents at birth or immediate family. It can mean extended family. It can mean others who are close, but perhaps not biologically related. And finally, within this framework, we understand family to also incorporate those who provide family-based alternative care. Still not seeing the slides, Kavita. I'm not sure if I should just continue on without them or if you want me to wait. Am I audible to the room,
Trying to
Kavita?
fix it. You can either continue or unfortunately you have to wait for 1 minute because we're still fixing.
Okay. Okay. I'll wait. We're seeing them now. May I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. If you could please go ahead to the next one, context and rationale. Thank you. I know that I don't need to tell the audience, but India, in India, families are really at the heart of children's well-being. And often this term family encompasses not only biological parents, but also that extended family and non-biological caregivers. So strengthening families is really essential to a number of different aspects of children's lives. It's essential to preventing separation, to ensuring that reintegration of children from childcare institutions goes well and is sustainable. And it really enables children to thrive in nurturing environments. Recognizing that families often operate within complex and fragile ecosystems, this family strengthening framework and guidance aims to really provide a roadmap for supporting families through coordinated interventions and across the varying sectors that interact with families. The guidance recognizes the diversity of care environments in India and the critical roles of local governance, social protection systems, and community-based mechanisms. In India, millions of children live outside of parental care, and hundreds of thousands even perhaps are residing in childcare institutions. The majority of those children have at least one living parent. And in in mid 2022, IACN documented the reasons why children end up in all forms of alternative care, finding that poverty and the lack of access to services and basic needs like food, clothing, and adequate shelter, or even education, are the main reasons why children end up being separated. The factors that lead to family-child separation and to institutionalization in India are often the same factors that make it hard for children to reintegrate into family and community. So without addressing these underlying factors and really strengthening families, there's always a risk of reseparation. Globally, research really tells us that all families can benefit from support from time to time. And whether that's to remain resilient in the face of crisis or adversity, or to learn good parenting techniques, or perhaps to weather a change in family dynamics. There's a visual on this slide that also really shows that family strengthening is a key part of care reform, and that it cuts across all the different components of that reform, which India is currently undertaking. In the first place, it's really a big part of that blue section, prevention and family preservation, including services and resources to really strengthen families before separation occurs, and strengthen families in which children are being reintegrated. While alternative care, the orange on the bottom, should be used whenever in the child's best interest, it should be family-based, and those families who are providing alternative care need to be supported and strengthened as well. And then finally, as the transformation of residential care happens, for successful reintegration, families need to be strengthened, and institutions themselves can be often transformed into services that support families. The family strengthening framework is really grounded in these concepts that I've been sharing about. If we could go to the next slide, I'll just briefly share the definition of family strengthening that we've used within this framework. Again, highlighting that this is really firmly grounded in global evidence, but also has been checked against the context of India. Family strengthening has those three primary aims that I was talking about: to prevent separation, to build resilience in families who have experienced separation or who are vulnerable, and then also to strengthen families who provide alternative care. It was discussed in the IACN working group, the fact that these three aims in this current time in India are very important. Family strengthening itself is a process to enhance the capacity of parents, caregivers, and children, with the goal of building positive relationships within families and really enabling access to the social protection services and schemes that you have available. Family strengthening is critical to addressing the factors that lead to separation, and is a preventative measure whereby vulnerable families, such as those facing poverty, discrimination, and other forms of distress, are supportive to build their protective factors. The family strengthening approach is cross-cutting, again, having services and programs available to the kinds of families that I've been describing. If we could move on to the structure of the guidance and framework. It's a framework really for understanding and defining the components of family strengthening. It first presents theoretical concepts, some of the core principles behind this idea of family strengthening, describing what are the risk factors that families in India face, but also building an understanding of what we mean by protective factors. It goes through levels of intervention, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And then following the theoretical aspects, it really becomes more of a practical guidance, helping practitioners to determine the level of need in a family, really outlining what some of the both non-government and government family strengthening services are in India. The framework makes linkages to schemes and programs that are available to practitioners to link families with. And then finally, it also talks about what the pathways are for families learning about family strengthening services and or for practitioners to identify the families that these interventions should support. We could go on to the next slide. One of the really, really important concepts that is providing really a foundation in this guidance is the idea that there are tiers of family support. While all families can benefit from family strengthening from time to time, not all families need the same kinds of interventions or even the same levels of support. So you'll see on the bottom there, the largest portion of this diagram really representing the majority of families in India. These are, this is the level of primary or universal, and it would be referencing policies and interventions that have general application for all community members, for all families. This kind of family support is really aimed at addressing societal factors that can lead to separation or vulnerability. Things like schemes to combat poverty or discrimination in the community. Approaches that aim to change attitudes towards disability, for example, or single parenthood. And then different kinds of policies around really promoting family as a primary environment for children. Then at the secondary level, we have services or supports to families where there is already a specific risk. This doesn't mean that the child is imminently going to be separated, but we know that there are certain factors that put families at additional risk. For example, simply stressful parenting or caregiving, stress or anxiety due to some kind of change in the family, or perhaps a challenging behavior that's coming up with a child due to a disability or some other evolution in their development. At this level, we could have services that really very specifically link children or families to social networks to reduce isolation, perhaps individual counseling, parenting education programs would come in here. And then to prevent separation, sometimes some families at this secondary level might need case management. Finally, we have the tertiary level where a family is really already involved with the child protection system in some way. And we need to have a very, very specific intervention services provided to aim to prevent that separation or to support a child being reunified after they were separated. So here you can see case management also plays a really important role as coming in alongside providing the family strengthening services. There is no one size fits all for family strengthening. It's about what's available around the family and also what the family needs. The framework includes a detail on the actions required by practitioners as a family might move through these different levels or be identified at a different level. Of course, with case management, the family's eventual independence is critically important. Not everyone needs to be managed through case management, and the system can't possibly manage all families. So this framework and guidance is really aimed to support practitioners in knowing which families fall at which of these levels, and therefore which families need a more intensive intervention like case management. The next slide, please. Related to the previous one, I just want to highlight that the Family Strengthening Framework outlines who provides these different kinds of services and programs within the family support system and across this continuum that you see from light touch support that all families can benefit from to those more intensive services and schemes for families in extra vulnerable situations. This includes details and examples. The framework includes examples of non-governmental family strengthening supports and services like positive parenting training, financial education, sponsorship or small grants for income generation, life skills training, and referrals to other services. Some of the interventions that are described in the framework are targeted to children, and some to caregivers, and some to the families as a whole. It really does give a great number of the government schemes also that are available to families and shows how those fit within this framework. The next slide. A final key element that I want to mention without going into tremendous detail, because you can read all of that in the framework and guidance, but is this idea of protective factors. We really tried to think not only of perhaps the vulnerabilities and the needs that families have, but to think from a strength-based perspective about what makes families in India strong. So the framework really outlines the protective factors that you see in this visual. It's built around an understanding that a combination of heightened risk factors, barriers, and reduced protective factors is really what makes some families separate from their children. Risk factors might include those conditions or variables associated with separation, like and with lower positive outcomes. Some examples might be the fact that the adults in the family migrate for work and there's little income in the family and there's a child with a disability, these kinds of factors. But at the same time, addressing those risk factors is usually not enough. Research suggests that we also have to build up protective factors, like ensuring that a family knows where to get the resources that they might need at a given time, that they know a little bit about child development and about parenting, and that they have a supportive, connective network around them, whether or not that's extended family. So these are a really important key foundational element of the framework. And then if we could go to the next slide, I'll just briefly, you're probably wondering, great, these are very theoretical concepts, but how do we actually apply this framework to our organization and to our work? As I said earlier, the Strengthening Families in India framework and guidance is really a roadmap for understanding and defining family strengthening. And it does that thinking about all the different sectors, education, health, disability, social protection that a family needs to have around them. It recognizes those diverse care environments, outlines roles and responsibilities for the social protection system and for the community-based mechanisms, for local governance and government services and practitioners, all the way through to those more community-based mechanisms, as well as non-governmental social services. It's really addressed to helping those workers to understand the tiers of family strengthening, to identify the entry points for families, and to target certain services and interventions to certain families. It should really help practitioners to understand what families should benefit from what programs and services at what time, to understand how to identify those families. And then it does provide quite a lot of detail on the various schemes that are available to families in India. It is not a case management guidance. You have that separately. I think the framework makes a lot of links to other existing resources, and in that way really shows where family strengthening and case management come together. So that is a little bit of the background, a little bit of the underpinnings and the framings for this document that we're launching today. And I would be happy to also take a few questions if there are any, just before we go to the next session. Thank you very much for listening and for your interest in the framework. Let's see. Thank you. I'm just looking at the chat, and thank you to Andrew, who has put a link to family resource centers and their role that they play in strengthening families and in supporting families. That's an excellent resource. Are there any questions?
Or reflections?
Hello, I'm Bhupendra from Mobile Crashes, and I just want to know, is this framework is covering care work for the children below 6 years? Because in the abbreviation I have seen ECD, and when I was reading it, I was not able to get anything detailed there. So one question is this framework talk about care for children below 6? And second question is that there is a special or different way of parenting for children below 6 years. So are we talking about the strengthening families in India for children below 6 also under this guideline, under this framework?
Thank you. Thank you. Really important and great question. This framework is not distinguishing families with children of any particular age. So in that way, it absolutely incorporates families with young children, families with children under the age of 6. In terms of early childhood programs, parenting education for families with young children, child care, those would all be part of the programs and services. I think there is a place in the framework where the kinds of programs and services are listed out, and there certainly is a link to early childhood programs and services there. Oftentimes, what sort of puts a family in needing additional supports even is the introduction of a new child. When a new baby is born into a family, it's a wonderful, wonderful event, but it can also cause stress. So that's an excellent example of a time in a family's development when they might need additional family support or family strengthening services and programs. Thank you for that question.
Any more questions?
Hello, Beth. This is Kiran Modi from Udin Care. Yeah, it's a wonderfully designed framework, and you are talking about social connections. But you know, when we work with families, what we are realizing, Genogram is a very, very effective tool. You know, reminding them of their own connections, because social connections you can still do resource mapping or asset mapping, but Genogram is a very potential tool. So just wanted to put it out.
Thank you, Karen. Nice to see you. I'm sorry that I didn't see you in person last week. Yes, of course, understanding that ecosystem, which can be different for each and every family, and using a genogram is one of the tools to really help a family figure out who are in their sphere of support. And I think in my own experience, one of the most critical aspects of family strengthening is helping families to connect not only to extended family and to relatives and to what they might consider their sphere of support, but also connecting to supports and other people in the community, their neighbors. One of the things that I think research really does show is that one of the critical factors that makes a family extra vulnerable is isolation and is not having support systems around them. So social connections are, I think, one of the most important protective factors that we can help to build.
We have one more question, Beth.
Yeah. Hello, Beth. This is Shubhadeep from Cine. Not a question, actually, it's a reflection kind of thing I'd like to share for Beth and for the audience as well. So when we talk about family strengthening, and as you rightly mentioned, that every family's needs are different and it can't be a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. So preventing separation from families who are at the village or the slums is like we can work on the case management process. But what we felt when we are working with the communities or the families who are on the moving trend, like children living in the railway stations or migrated population families who migrate from place to place from 5 months, 6 months onwards, and runaway children also. So because these families don't have a proper, permanent stay of living, I would say. So they don't have that space where you can work on case management from a point of view. So family strengthening becomes a lot more difficult with those families because they don't have that proper identity, a proper place to stay. Because when it comes to case management, there are a lot of state government schemes, case management processes, principles and all. But if the family is moving from like 3 months, 4 months and living on stations, railway platforms and all, and they don't have a proper, dwelling place, so that theory or that ideology don't work in that case. So I think family strengthening from that point of view needs to be redesigned or rethink that how we can work with those population or with those families who don't have a permanent place to stay and always moving on the roads. So I think that this document, I think we can also have a look at how we can work on those processes with this kind of families. That's what we have experienced in Cine when we work with families in railway stations and railway corridors.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for mentioning families who are connected to the streets and families who are on the move. Really important population of usually uber vulnerable families and children. I guess the one thing I would want to mention is just that I always think of a framework and of guidance as an evolving support for practitioners. And so as you use this framework and guidance, I think it's great to come back. Maybe that's through the IACN Family Strengthening Working Group to kind of revisit whether there's pieces of it that are missing or things that need to be fleshed out further. I think certainly, again, that it's not just a lack of housing, but it's that idea that a family is constantly moving. It doesn't mean that they can't benefit from family strengthening services and programs. Yes, case management becomes more difficult, but we have to be able to identify, what are those kinds of services and programs that we can link them to. So please use the framework, use the guidance, and as you learn in your own context and communities, make it applicable to the kinds of families that you're working with. It's a great point. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we're moving on to another session now, but it's been really a thrill for me to work with you on this. I hope it's useful. And it was great that I could join you for a little bit virtually today.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you. This was really wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Beth, for walking us through the document, its key feature, and how it can be used. And it's very rightly said, it's an evolving document. So we would really love to receive your feedback. Please apply it, use it, and come up with the feedbacks if you have. We would be happy to receive it. So thank you again. Thank you, Beth, for joining us today. We are now moving to our next session. Our next session is a panel discussion on, as we just see, the first and primary responsibility of the family, or in the case management structure, we saw the primary responsibilities of the families and communities. And when we talk about communities, we cannot talk about communities without the local governance and Panchayati Raj system. So we have a panel discussion to explore the role of Panchayati Raj system in strengthening families and in supporting. For that, I would first request Ms. Vijay Lakshmi Arora from UNICEF She is the moderator and would request ma'am to please invite the panelists also. Please, ma'am.
This is working or?
Yes.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Thank you, Kavita, IACN, everybody for giving me this opportunity to moderate this discussion. I'm conscious that we have only 45 minutes. So Kavita, please help me to keep time. So without wasting time, let me invite the other panel members. May I invite Shri Satya Ranjan Sahuji to join me on the dais. Manoranjan Das. I think we have one panel member, Kanti Kumari Devi ji, who is joining us online. So perhaps we can spotlight her. And Loknath Mishra ji. So as the panel members are joining me, I just wanted to kind of set the context for this session. If you can come this side, I think there's a disbalance that's happening. Thank you. Yeah. So this is really, this panel is really talking about, how does local governance or what is the role of local governance, from a panchayat perspective, what is the role they can play in promoting child protection? And we are, of course, talking in the context of family strengthening. So we are really looking at two opportunities, I would say, from a policy framework perspective. Of course, we have the Mission Vatsalya guidelines. All of us here are quite familiar with it. And we are specifically looking at Objective 11 of the guidance document, which really talks about the role of panchayats in, addressing child protection issues. And we also have the other framework around the localization of SDGs and the role that is provided to Gram Panchayats. So what we are trying to do through this panel discussion is really to see how we can leverage what is being provided by these two policy frameworks for understanding, the kind of role Gram Panchayats can play in strengthening families. So the discussion itself is like, I would like to break it into three sections. The first one is really looking at the policy, big picture, policy framework, what opportunities are available. The second segment is really looking at practical experiences. So we have people who have experience, Satyaranjan Sahuji, who is from the government, who's actually been ex-Deputy Secretary to Panchayati Raj Department, Government of Odisha. But I also understand he has held other distinguished positions in different government departments. So he will be sharing his perspective from the government. We, of course, have practitioners here, Loknath ji and Manoranjan ji. And we have, most importantly, we have a very important stakeholder with us, which is Kanti Kumari Devi ji, who is actually in the panchayat system. She is actually the Sarpanch of Jagdalpur Gram Panchayat. So we will actually have a first-hand experience of listening to her. And then we want to really end this whole discussion with some key recommendations coming from each panel member, which are going to be actionable for us to then take it forward. So with that, I'll kind of ask my first question. This is going to be more like a question answer kind of a session. So my first question to Shri Satya Ranjan Sahuji, sir, basically looking at the big picture, the policy framework, what do you think are some of the opportunities that are available, at the state level for integrating child protection into the GPDP process?
Thank you very much. So regarding opportunities, whatever I have collected from my experience for the last 30 years of government service in Odisha. In Odisha, we have more than 6,000 gram panchayats, 314 blocks. But in my assessment, I doubt that whether this child protection policy or whatever we are doing for the children in terms of security, safety, nutrition, etc., it has not yet percolated to the field. If we are talking of 6,000 gram panchayats and 314 blocks, hardly 25% or 30% gram panchayats or blocks are doing business with the children. Nevertheless, I joined Panchayat Raj Department as Joint Secretary in 2015 when JJ Act was introduced. Initially, it was opposed like anything in the field. Why this act will come? Why people will fall on this category of laws and rules and regulations? Even today also, we are unable to find a vibrant role in block as well as panchayat to detect the children who are in difficulties. Our main purpose is to keep the children safe, nutritious, and keep free them all vices of the society. But it is also difficult. When I'm giving one example to you regarding a child marriage. I was collector of one of the districts in Odisha also. One fine morning, I got a message in my WhatsApp, one marriage is happening somewhere. I didn't understand anything. I know what is child marriage, what is to be done, what is the role of district social welfare office, what is the role of ICDS. I know it. I inquired about this message. Somebody told me that a child of our village who is below 12 years is going to marry shortly. Shortly means today. So immediately I talked to the SP and SP went there and protected the child. But after that, we didn't keep track of it. Next year, she got married at the same place. This is the fallacy because we are not aware of the role what we are going to do for the children. Awareness in the field is mandatory. It is required now at present because so many acts have come in and so many organizations, so many committees has been formed by government for to look after this security of the children from all points of view. So awareness is very much required now. We lack it in the field. The sarpanch, the ward members, the samiti sabhya, or whatever political dignitaries, they are working in the field, as well as the bureaucrats also. They have, as a retired bureaucrat, I can say they have least interest. And we are learning from the civil society organization in framing the policies to march forward also. So really, I am grateful to all the stakeholders who are present here. I am also happy to see this journal or magazine which you have released today. It is a very, very good concept. It is a very good chapter for strengthening the family. A child feels safety at two places while he or she holds the finger of his or her father or stays in the lap of the mother. At two consequences, at two places only, the child feels safest to say. But slowly, as the family is disintegrating, children are moving from one place to another place. Also, for 2 months they are at one place, for 2 months they are at other places. The very bonding of family is disintegrating. It is a wholesome approach for the children. So first we have to see the approach of the political people and also the approach of the bureaucrats. In Max Weber's philosophy, what is about bureaucracy? Normally negative. It will not happen. We will not do. Why should I do? If you go to government office, sorry, I was also a government servant for some time. Why should I do it? Why should I take care of this child who is moving on the street? Why should I take notice of these children who are in distress? That is the normal nature. Because of pressure group, because of interest by civil society organization, because of interest by some good Samaritans who have come this way. It is a journey. It will continue. It cannot stop at any place. I visited one place from my experience, I can tell it was located in reserve forest area. 11 children were moving here and there. I had gone to see a crocodile park, which was being built there by government of Odisha. So in my vehicle, I always keep some chocolates there. So on way return, I saw that my driver has distributed some chocolates to the children. And the children came, took the chocolate and demanded money from me. Sir, we need some money. Knowing that I am collector of that place, what you will do with the money? And I will give the money to my parents who will take liquor. You just imagine. People are begging, children are begging in the streets and taking money for the parents, for the uncles, for the aunties, whatever they are. They take liquor in that price. So immediately I decided, I inquired that why the 11 children are not taken care of. One person who is the Mukhya of that place, he told that, so this is not covered under Panchayat, as it is under reserve forest. Only people are getting rice, 35 kg rice, whatever government of India has sanctioned. So I took a decision that I should shift all the 11 children to child care home. One is run by Government of Odisha, another was run by Government of India. So I called the DCPO and asked him, please take the details of these children, we will shift them. Suddenly an old woman came. She told, Babu, don't take these children from our house. You put the children in proper place in our house. Educate them here. I thought it is possible also. Why it is not possible? But no ICDS center was there. As because it is in reserve forest, no Anganwadi center was there. So within 7 days, I opened a house there. One abandoned house was there. I put all the children there, children in that house. Means they came for education. One tutor was appointed. Lunch was given. Play materials was given. Dresses, books, etc. 11 children. I left the district 3 years back. That also we are running that center till today. And the person who was there, he was given salary from Red Cross Fund. 2 points of coordination are required for our purpose, our mission. One is at state level, another is at district level. If state level is vibrant, district level may happen, may not happen. If district level is vibrant, no state level intervention is required. What I have learned from my practice. So both the coordination is required. In state level, it is divided into 2 parts. In district level also, it is divided into 2 parts. One is bureaucratic level, another is political level. Unless there is a political will, things cannot percolate down. Impossible. Recently, we had attended 2 meetings in one of the remote districts, Gajapati district in Odisha. They don't know anything. The Anganwadi worker asking the Asa Karmi, what is the status of the children in your village? The Asa Karmi is starting, who is keeping A to Z of the child from onwards. He is asking Anganwadi worker, what is the status? So in the field, we are not aware what is to be done, either in political level or in bureaucratic level. Bureaucracy, the video will tell that I have n numbers of works. I cannot look into the matter. Government sponsorship is there, private donors are there, child care homes are there. Of course, institutional care is the last resort for this children care because we want to keep the children in family only. So people don't have time. If you ask in the state, 14 departments minimum, I think more than 14 departments are involved in child care, down from home department, from WCD to SSCPD to school and mass education department, health and family welfare department. But who will coordinate? Somebody is to coordinate. Flowers are there. Somebody is to make it garland. Otherwise, it cannot happen. So we have to take it forward at the level of chief secretary in the state, call a coordination meeting and specify what is to be done. X, Y, Z, already specified in different acts, laws and regulations, already is there. But we have to specify and keep it an agenda in all secretaries meeting happening in every Tuesday. In Odisha, it is in Tuesday. In Bihar and Jharkhand, some other days they have fixed. Chief Secretary has to give 5 minutes per week for this. He will ask juvenile delinquents and social welfare department about this social pension for the destitutes who are affected from HIV/AIDS at some places. All these things only for 5 minutes. Things will run like anything. We are not doing that. I have seen it in the list agenda. In district also, when I was reviewing all departments, it was the list agenda. What is child protection? Children are there at their home. Some dropouts are there because school and mass education is very much vibrant to check the dropouts. That's why it comes to the knowledge. Otherwise, trafficking, missing cases, DCPO is doing some work, taking the assistance of police, finding some children from railway stations or from streets or from some abandoned area. All these cases are only coming out, but it is not a wholesome approach. We have to generate political will. For political will, we have to tag it with generation of funds. How? One MLA is getting 5 crores per annum for allotting the funds by his will in his area. One MP is getting 5 crores per annum. Now it is increasing shortly. Maybe it is 7 crores or 10 crores per annum. If we put a slab there, 1%, 0.5% or 2% maximum, then automatically the MLAs and MPs will come to the fold. We can get some funds. We have provisioned 5% from GPDP to spend for children care in the field. How many panchayats are spending it? I don't know the All India picture. We have 2,55,000 approximately panchayats in the country. I don't know the statistics. In Odisha, I already told hardly 20-25%. Much after 2 They're reluctant. How much will get it? If we put 5% here from 25 lakhs or 50 lakhs annual budget, how much we will get? Calculation is done like that. So politically, we have to tag MLA land and MP land, put some pressure. That can be done. It can be done. And bureaucratically, we have to align, we have to tag Chief Secretary of the states so that this curriculum should find a place in the review meeting of Chief Secretary.
So can I interrupt, sir?
Yeah,
Because
please.
I have a second question for you, but I'll come back to you towards the end. You're already answering that question, so I
Okay.
want you to hold on to that.
Yes, please.
If you don't mind. But just want to say thank you very much for, I think, setting the context. Very comprehensive view in terms of, I think, really recognizing the role that Gram Panchayat can play in protecting children, in strengthening families, doing early identification, etc. But we know that it is not happening for various reasons, as you explained. And I think you also highlighted the need for different stakeholders to come together. You know, it's the elected representatives, your bureaucrats, your civil societies, families, and communities. And you also outlined some of the opportunities that are available. So I'll come back to you, sir, on what can be done for the GPs to play a very effective role in a bit. But I would like to actually now move on to invite Manoranjan. I think many of us know Manoranjan Dash. He's working with Changing the Way We Care or Catholic Relief Services. He has been playing a very important role in actually, what should I say, operationalizing this family strengthening approach. So Manoranjan, for you, the question really is, now that Beth has outlined this framework, the family strengthening framework, and she's kind of identified few key components, you know, what constitutes or contributes to family strengthening. So what I want to ask you is, you know, from your perspective, like how does this framework, can it be like a guidance document, Gram Panchayat, or their focused on creating a child-friendly panchayats? And what do you work which would be like a guidance for them?
Yes, thank you, BG, and all the respected panel members, and especially Kanta ma'am on the screen, and all the friends on the screen and in the house. Yeah, so just to respond to your first part of your question is how this framework is connected with the local governance system. If I want to actually jump into that, definitely this framework is presented in a way that it is in line with the care reforms, right? So it includes the prevention aspect, it includes the reintegration and also the family-based alternative care. And also we have tried to connect actually the role of local governance across all these three pillars based on our discussion with the stakeholders and based on the review of the policy ecosystems. So just to actually going back actually to draw down some of the bit of the policy context, actually why we connected with the GP system for the family strengthening is that we all know actually the 73rd Amendment and Article 243 A2 actually O that speaks about the role of the Gram Panchayat, right? And also the 74th Amendment about the local urban bodies. So then after for the STG, what they have done, so they have actually organized all the 29 subjects which have been transferred to the Panchayat Raj system and urban local bodies. And the state have been actually empowered to transfer that to the PRI systems. So especially looking at the Gram Panchayat system, those 29 subjects have been organized across the 9 thematic areas, right? And two of the thematic areas is theme 3, which is for child-friendly panchayat, and theme 9, which is for the women-friendly panchayat. So primarily here actually we are speaking about the theme 3, right? So looking at that, for the theme 3, now there is a interministerial commitment, right? And for the theme 3, the nodal ministry is the WCD, right? So that's why it has come from there. It has not something new has been come to the Mission Vatsalya, but it is already in the Panchayat Raj system that the Gram Panchayat will prepare a Gram Panchayat development plan, right? With the two key objectives. One is the economic growth, second is the social justice, right? So I am actually connecting both the objectives with the family strengthening. And for making that happen, Gram Panchayat also can spend 5% of their entire fund, as well as in the GPTP plan, the Gram Panchayat also should plan for the no budget or zero budget activities, which basically is enhancing the social justice aspects, right? So in that sense, keeping those in mind, in this framework, we have 3 to 4 elements where Gram Panchayat's role is coming. So one is the entry point, right? So when we are saying about the family strengthening, there are a couple of entry points. The entry point could be a DCPO, could be a CWC, could be a CCI, could be a family himself. But here when we are saying the Gram Panchayat, that means the Gram Panchayat is located at the close proximity of the villages or communities and the families. Second aspect is for the prevention. Till now, we have been talking about actually prevention, right? But at the system level, there is not a mechanism so far which can really identify the families in a real-time basis and provide the support. So probably for that, the 11th objective of the Mission of Australia, they clearly actually say 3 words. One is a sustained assessment. Second is a proper implementation. Third is regular monitoring to create a safety net. So in that sense, Gram Panchayat could be actually an entry point for providing a preventive response. So that is one aspect we have actually brought here. So it is not only for the prevention, but also for the reintegration and for also the family-based care. So that is one thing. So the objective is Gram Panchayat should provide the preventive response as a primary prevention, right? Even if I don't think from our experience, the expanded scope of the preventive sponsorship is not a kind of a thing which can really prevent. It could be secondary prevention. Because when we are saying about sponsorship, it comes through the CWC system. And I afraid there is a need of SIR, ISP and everything else, and it takes time, right, from our experience. So second aspect is, when we are saying about, like Beth was presenting, when you are trying to actually build the family and strengthening it, both the protective factors and the risk factors are equally important, right? So when you are doing actually consultation in Ganjam, all the stakeholders from village to the district level, so they have very clearly actually mentioned that what are the key risk factors in terms of the social norms, in terms of the traditional practices, in terms of the community beliefs, that actually Panchayat can break it, right? For example of child marriage, right? Schools were there at the primary level, right? But at the secondary level, some children are not going to school, right? So what I mean to say is, if I take the examples of each aspects that Beth presented, which is very essential for family strengthening, we are considering at the 3 level. So Panchayat have the role for the primary level as well, the programs and the services which are for mass application, and for the secondary level, that certain categories of families and children, they need additional supports, and also at the tertiary level, who are at the risk of separation, right? So across all these 3 levels, Panchayat has a role. So that's why we have also brought local governance to family strengthening. And I think if Panchayat can really play a good role at the primary and the secondary level, the tertiary level work role also will be reduced, right? And the DCPO and the CWC, other technical specialized services required can be actually handled properly. And the other aspect is Gram Panchayat as a service provider, that we have actually incorporated all these schemes that a Gram Panchayat is facilitating. And besides that, how actually Gram Panchayat can use the 5% of untied fund for a specific critical support that at a given point of time, some families and some children, they are either excluded or not eligible for actually accessing the schemes. And that is the most important aspect which Gram Panchayat can actually spend for that money. Because for the untied 40%, the money is given by the Finance Commission for the local development purpose, for the economic growth or social justice. And it can be spent for the felt need, right? So Panchayat have that flexibility actually to utilize it for the sustained assessment, for implementation and regular monitoring, for creating a safety net. So these are the couple of things, but if you see actually the framework, logically it is connected, and in every aspect, Gram Panchayat has a very strong role to complement. Yeah.
Ranjan, I think you really brought out like several important things. I don't want to summarize the whole thing, but just want to say this important point that what we are discussing here today, I mean, in terms of the role of local governance in child protection, there is a framework available for us, you know, whether it is your objective 11 of Mission Vatsalya or your sustainable development goals and the localization process and the theme 3 that he was referring to. So we have those frameworks. And I think it's a great opportunity for us as organizations who are now working, you know, to leverage that, operationalize it, and see how do we do that early identification? How do we really strengthen prevention program? So from that perspective, thanks a lot, Manoranjan, for really trying to bring the two aspects together, the conceptual framework and how that can be leveraged by Gram Panchayats. I think you established the linkage really, really very well in terms of the need for primary prevention, linkages to social protection, using the untied fund of 5%. Thank you very much for that. I would now like to talk to Kanti ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us online, Kanti ma'am. Can you hear us? हैंड माइक से करना पड़ेगा. Kanti ma'am, can you hear us now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all. Namaste to all.
Namaste. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. I have a couple of questions for you. I hope you have been able to follow the discussion that
Yes.
has been taking place here in the forum. So my first question to you, ma'am, is like, you are the Sarpanch, right, of Jagdalpur, and I'm sure you have been involved in the GPDP planning process and the implementation process. So what, like, you know, have you seen any positive outcomes from, you know, child rights or child protection perspective in the GPDP plans that, you know, your panchayat may have developed?
Yes, ma'am. In our panchayat, we take 5% untied fund for our PLC PC, ma'am. And in that, we are we did it voluntary mapping, ma'am. In that, we involve our youth, female youth, in our to identify the children at our panchayat level, and after that we will organize different types of meetings like Bal Sabha, and we in that meeting we actually involve their parents also, and at first it is very difficult to I'm मतलब जब हम फर्स्ट में जब बाल सभा अरेंज किए उनका पेरेंट्स को भी उन मीटिंग में बुलाते थे अच्छा मतलब 100% में जस्ट 20 to 30% रेस्पॉन्ड ही हमको मिल रहा था, लेकिन हम जब कुछ कंपटीशन वगैरह करके जब इन्वॉल्व कर ले बच्चे लोगों को आफ्टर दैट इंक्रीज होकर अभी हमारा पंचायत में मैम एक बच्चा भी ऐसे नहीं है कि वो स्कूल नहीं जा रहा है या लेबर का काम के लिए जा रहा है, उस तरह का बच्चा हमारा पंचायत में नहीं।
अच्छा, थैंक यू मैम। ये सुनकर बहुत ही खुशी हुआ कि आपका जो पंचायत है वो 5% जो अनटाइड फंड्स हैं आप उसको यूटिलाइज करके बच्चों के जीवन में परिवर्तन लाने की प्रयास कर रहे हैं। ये सुनकर बहुत खुशी हुआ। पर ये पूरा जो प्रक्रिया है एक चाइल्ड फ्रेंडली ग्राम पंचायत जो बनाने का, जो GPDP जिसको थीम 3 जो मनोरंजन जी अभी बता रहे थे कि एक चाइल्ड फ्रेंडली ग्राम पंचायत को हमें निर्माण करने के लिए जो GPDP आपको बनाना पड़ेगा, वो करने के लिए आपको क्या लगता है कि किस तरह के चैलेंजेस या बाधाएं आती हैं? क्या क्या तकलीफ़ें होती हैं या क्या ऐसे चैलेंजेस हैं जो आपको लगता है कि हमें उसमें थोड़ा सा ध्यान देना पड़ेगा फॉर अस टू बी एबल टू मेक दिस प्लान सक्सेसफुल?
मैम एक्चुअली स्पेसिफिक गाइडलाइन चाहिए मैम इम्प्लीमेंटेशन करने के लिए, वो भी स्टेट फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल स्टेट तरफ से एक इंस्ट्रक्शन चाहिए मैम, डिस्ट्रिक्ट को डिस्ट्रिक्ट से, ब्लॉक को ब्लॉक से, पंचायत को मैम, टू एग्जीक्यूट प्रॉपरली इन्हें मतलब रूट लेवल में इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए स्टेट से जब कम्युनिकेट अच्छा सा आएगा रूट तक, सो जो भी हम 5% हमारा GPDP में अनटाइड फंड का रखते हैं उसमें ज्यादातर जब हमारा एक जब ऑफिसर लोग इसमें इन्वॉल्व रहेंगे, इंटरेस्ट भी देंगे, जैसे कि सर बोले थे पहले जे ये सब इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए पॉलिटिकल पार्टी एंड हमारा ऑफिशियल स्टाफ भी इन्वॉल्व प्रॉपरली होना चाहिए। एवरी फ्राइडे जो सर बोल रहे थे 5 मिनट्स डिस्कशन चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन थीम का डिस्कशन होना चाहिए। ऐसे ही एवरी फ्राइडे और इन वीकली वंस इन ब्लॉक लेवल आल्सो जब पंचायत सब पंचायत का सरपंच को बुलाकर तुम्हारा गांव में क्या हुआ, क्या क्या तुम स्टेप चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन कमेटी के लिए ले रहे, ऐसे कुछ डिस्कशन वगैरह रहेगा तो मैम अच्छे तरह काम करेंगे, मेरा सुझाव।
ओके, थैंक यू कांति जी। मैं वापस फिर से आऊंगी आपके पास ये सत्र जब हम क्लोज कर रहे हैं। I now actually would like to invite Loknath Mishra ji. I think many of us know him. He's a stalwart in this development sector. He's the Secretary of Association for Rural Upliftment and National Allegiance, Aruna, as we know in short. And I know he has done a lot of work around family strengthening. So, Loknath ji, we are actually now moving on to practice. I think कांति जी ने एक अच्छा सेगवे हमें दिया इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कैसे हम कर सकते हैं या उसमें क्या क्या challenges आते हैं. तो like from your experience as a practitioner, what are some of the key challenges in integrating child protection into the GPDP process? क्या ये जो 5% की जो बात होती है untied fund, I have heard a lot from different stakeholders that where is that 5% coming? Does Gram Panchayat even have that kind of revenue to generate? Is it easy for us to access? Because I've heard a lot from several stakeholders saying वो 5% को लाना बहुत मुश्किल है. तो so what has been your experience, and share some insights from your practical experience of engaging on this, not just the 5%, but there could be others as well. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, I'm confused since last couple of years we are implementing changing the way we care. But when we started working on GPDP and with Gram Panchayat, I'm confused. Day to day, every day, it's fluctuating. Today I'm clear, tomorrow I'm confused. So it's up and down all the time. The most important thing is to a social issue, we are looking the child protection within the JJ framework. A vertical, two categories, CNCP, CCL, institutional care, non-institutional care, sponsorship or institution. This is what the entire child protection system. So Mission Vatsalya is little comprehensive, child-centric, and but not yet being practiced, understood by many. We are talking about Mission Vatsalya, the everything for the Bible for DCPU, nothing for Gram Panchayat. When we are going to the openness, comprehensive part of Mission Vatsalya, it's about participation of Gram Panchayat and urban local bodies. But for them, this document is nothing. Panchayat means it is only construction, repair, maintenance. So far, the entire 5% of grant they are spending for repair, maintenance, refurbishing, wall writing up Anganwadi centers. They are very convenient in that. Actually, Satya sir told everything. Manranjan also speaks a lot actually, and Sarpanch, she also told a lot of things. But the first thing is at district level. I'm talking about district level. State level, we have to have a very strong and robust coordination mechanism with WNC department, Panchayat Raj department. In addition to that, you have to take other departments also. But the convergence point is the collectorate. The collector is the chairperson of the entire system in the district. But at collectorate, there is no coordination between the DPO, the district panchayat officer, who is the boss of Panchayat Raj system, and the DCPO. DPO is having a hierarchical downline. DCPO doesn't have anything. So these are the big difficulties. When we are coming to district level, these are the difficulties. When we are going to the Panchayat level, the most important difficulties we have seen, though we are saying that in 300 panchayats in Balangir district, in some panchayats in Gajapati district, in some panchayats in Ganjam district, we have included child protection, monetary provision for child protection in GPDP, but most of them are on awareness, creating awareness. No direct benefit, because the process, the process at Panchayat level, there is a standing committee. There is a standing committee for social justice, women and children. The standing committee has three roles. One is the guiding role, advisory role. Second is the coordination role. Third is monitoring. The standing committee doesn't have the minimum knowledge, awareness about including child protection issues in GPDP. Because in our juvenile justice system, when we are providing some support to a child, we never include the community. We prepare SIR, we means DCP, we prepare SIR, we prepare ICP, we provide sponsorship, we take the children to CCI, we reintegrate them, we do everything. But we never include the community. So there is very little control, little knowledge, little experience, little participation of the community. So there are so many gaps. The first and foremost thing is to strengthen the standing committee at Panchayat level. The biggest challenge is that. Unless until the standing committee is strengthened, they will not intimate the issues of children to GPDP. That is the first thing I have experienced. First thing. Once it is included, then the second thing is the convergence at block level, that the Panchayat members, particularly Sarpanch and the Panchayat executive officer, should not face any audit compliance. Because if they are spending the minimum amount of money available with the Panchayat for any purpose other than construction, they will face the audit compliance because it is not in their practice. Suppose a child in my Panchayat required 2,000 rupees for support per month for 6 months. Because sponsorship, somebody will apply for sponsorship, it will take some time, and so a lot of difficulties are there. But if I supported a child in my Panchayat, 2,000 rupees per month for 6 months, that was an emergency support, then immediately that will be objected at block level. So strengthening the standing committee at Panchayat level and protecting the officials at Panchayat level, at block level, particularly in finance matters. These two are very much important at Panchayat and block level. And at district level, there should be a clear communication from the collector to both the officials. I'm particularly talking about DPO, who is having a hierarchical downline from sub-district to block to Panchayat level, and the DCPO. So if these two things will happen, then immediately Panchayats will start providing support to children. We have experience actually, because a lot of things we have ignored. We are only talking about CCI sponsorship, but there is an inbuilt system in the society. Organic system, there is an organic system in the society. Kinship is existing, is there in the community. Kinship is there, cultural practices are there, so many inbuilt systems are there in the community, but we never explored that. Once Panchayat own that thing, and once that system is supported, suppose I am supporting a parentless kin of my extended family, and if there will be an assurance that later on I will get some support from government, then it is sustainable. So two things, strengthening the standing committee, and second thing, no audit objection to the officials. These two are the very practical things.
Thank you so much. 7 minutes left, sir. So thank you so much, Loknath ji. I think your field experience really highlights some of the aspects which we may not have realized, especially this point of, the audit lens which comes under for the officials. Even if they want to do it, then they are struggling with that.
I want to know,
So-
is there any audit objection?
Sir, one Sarpanch, I'm just giving you an example. One example. One Sarpanch, sir, in Balangri district, I will not take the name. A Sarpanch is continuously providing support to a child who lost both of his parents. There was nobody in the. And when he tried to provide the support under GPDP, then there was a lot of objection. Block said, no, we will not support that because there is no communication. One way we are saying that Mission Vatsalya is for the entire country, all the states signed the MOU. But there is no ownership at state level, there is no ownership at district level. So BDO says no. That is the biggest challenge. That is why even there are so many panchayats. In Odisha, there are about 400 panchayats. They are agreed to spend the money, but that is confined to creating awareness, not beyond that.
I'm not going to summarize. I'll. So only 5 minutes left. Oh, okay. I thought you were saying I have 5 minutes. I don't know how this works.
It's
on. Yeah, okay. In the interest of time, can I just ask the panel members, sir, especially you, I had promised I'll come back to you. Can you share like one recommendation? Like you've heard all the different challenges. What are some of the practical problems that we face, when we are trying to develop a GPDP, which is focused on child rights or including child protection. So can you share with us like one recommendation which you think is very important for all of us as stakeholders to take forward this initiative?
It is already established that Gram Panchayat is the main stakeholder in this process. Unless the sarpanches or the panchayat officials who are interested for this work do not do their work in the manner as per the rules and regulations, nothing can happen. It is only the civil society organizations which have brought forward this joining to this extent. Of course, with due apology, I can tell in remote districts of Odisha, we are yet to venture. Only Aruna has ventured, I think, 10, 12 districts. Another 18 districts are there. Children are exploited there, works in bricks factory, begging and moving here and there. So many issues are there to be resolved. So as Madam has already told one recommendation, my one recommendation is that strong, robust coordination from state level to panchayat level. Once one communication is passed, either in interministerial meeting or in intersecretarial meeting, then BDO has nothing to say, he has to implement it. And accountability should be done. If any child comes out in this distress condition or difficulties and not taken care of in time, that particular officer who is in charge of that panchayat will be taken into account. Unless there is accountability, unless there is adequate, transparent funds flow, things cannot happen. That's why I wanted to tag MLA-led and MP-led, and also a robust communication from secretary level to district level to block level. That is my recommendation. And as already our Sarpanch Jagdalpur has told, reviews should be done weekly basis, 15 minutes, 10 minutes per, because we are putting so much importance to the children. They are the future of the nations. But least things we are doing in practice, only theory is happening. So thank you very much. My only recommendation is that everybody who is in this hierarchy should be tied up together with happiness, not with a pressure.
I think I'd like to add actually, when Saras collectively went to him, Mamnun Mau and me, one thing he said that if the amount at Panchayat level is earmarked and fixed only for child protection, they cannot spend the money for any other purpose. Then only the
Tight,
Panchayat,
yeah, it
yes,
has to be tight. Yeah.
it has to be tight, and
Yeah.
they will definitely spend the money for the people.
Thank you.
That money should not be eroded. And apart from that, I can put two funds before you. You should know, you must be knowing that. One fund is abundantly available with the district. That is District Red Cross Fund. District Red Cross Fund.
Red Cross.
Red Cross Fund. So that is abundantly available. Any child who is in destitute, who is in distress, if you want some money to spend for him, collector can spend any money. Sky is the limit. Number one. Second, with all the chief ministers of the country, one chief minister relief fund is also available. CMRF. Collectors are also empowered to spend money, of course, with a certain limitation. That is 30,000 in Odisha. Beyond 30,000, it will come to state for approval. For treatment of the children, for livelihood, engagement of his parents, money can be spent for CMRF. I have spent from Red Cross, from CMRF also, and I have done it in my district.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing these other opportunities that are available. कांति मैडम, आपके पास मैं वापस आना चाहूँगी. आपने ऑलरेडी एक सुझाव हमको दिया कि एक स्टेट लेवल का एक इम्प्लीमेंटेशन गाइडलाइंस की ज़रूरत है. पंचायत डिपार्टमेंट को ये पूरा जीपीडीपी प्रोसेस में बाल हक या बाल संरक्षण के मुद्दे को जोड़ने के लिए. आपने ये पूरा चर्चा सुना इस सत्र में जो भी हुआ. क्या आपके कैन यू गिव अस लाइक एक और सुझाव जो आपको लगता है बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है ये जीपीडीपी प्रोसेस को सक्सेसफुल बनाने के लिए?
मैम एक्चुअली पीआरए मेंबर का जब भी ट्रेनिंग वगैरह हमारा ब्लॉक लेवल में या डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल में या स्टेट लेवल रे हो रहा है, इंक्लूडिंग एमपी एमएलए आल्सो मैम, एक्चुअली चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन कमिटी के लिए अवेयरनेस जो भी करने का हमारा सुझाव हमारा रूट लेवल से जा रहा है, उसको लेकर जो भी एक मतलब कुछ प्लान्स बनाना चाहिए। उस प्लान में जो सर बोल रहे थे कि उस जो फंड रखने को प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है मैडम, क्योंकि 5% फंड इज इनसफिशिएंट मैम। एक्चुअली वी आर एडजस्टिंग, इट इज नॉट सफिशिएंट। एंड ऑडिट वगैरह भी जो फेस करने का पड़ रहा है मैडम, उसमें भी हमारा जब भी हम बीडीओ मैम या का हमारा ऑफिशियल स्टाफ के साथ कंसल्टेंट करना पड़ता है, उसमें प्रॉब्लम दिक्कत आ रहा है कि नहीं नहीं आप नहीं रख सकते, क्यों नहीं रख सकते, क्यों रखेंगे, इसमें ऑडिट कंपैरिजन आएगा वगैरह के मतलब हमको बोल रहे हैं वो लोग। इसलिए मैडम हम भी कुछ और कुछ हटके से करने चाहत रखते हैं, लेकिन इनसफिशिएंट फंड के मतलब जो भी हमारा पंचायत में जो रहता है उसको लेकर हम भी कुछ नहीं कर पाते।
ठीक है, थैंक यू मैम। ये जो मुद्दा आप हाईलाइट कर रहे हैं कि एक तो 5% का जो स्पेंडिंग होता है उसमें कोई क्वेश्चंस, ऑडिट ऑब्जेक्शंस नहीं आना चाहिए, वो एक आपका ऑब्स्टेकल लग रहा है। और दूसरा आप बोल रहे हैं कि 5% एक बहुत ही सीमित राशि है, हमें और उसको बढ़ाने की ज़रूरत है, ये आपका सुझाव है। थैंक यू। सो कमिंग बैक टू यू लोकनाथ जी, आपका कोई और सुझाव है? Otherwise, and Manoranjan, both of you, if you have to say any one recommendation or last word, otherwise we can open it up for the floor.
What I'm thinking actually, I spent about 30 years in HIV prevention. There was a slogan, ending the epidemic by, right now there is a slogan by 2030. Prior to that, there was a slogan 90-90-90 by 2020. Now it is 95-95-95 by 2025, over. So I'm not going detail to that, but the commitments we never kept our commitments. All the time there was a commitment कि हम अभी खत्म कर देंगे, अभी खत्म कर देंगे, अभी खत्म कर देंगे। अभी रिजल्ट आ रहा है कि ओडिशा, असम, अरुणाचल में HIV is increasing. Similarly, Mission Bachelo came in 2022. Now it is 2025. So पता नहीं कि कब होगा, कैसे होगा, कितने ग्रासरूट। We are in some hundreds of panchayats, but we are talking about 255 gram panchayats. And as of now, we have entirely excluded the urban local body. I was just talking to Kiran ma'am and she said, yes, we are doing something with the urban local bodies. It is excluded. So right now we are talking about reaching 80% of children, either in villages or their roots are in villages, but completely excluded the urban local bodies. What is happening over there? Very limited resources. You just see the resources. Reaching some lakhs of children. Now we said we have opened the sponsorship. Previously in Odisha it was confined to 40 children. Now they are going up to 100, 120, 200, 250. Then it will, from districts, the list of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 children will come. There is no money. I'm sure. We don't know the exact number of vulnerable children. We don't know the exact amount of money available for them. So whatever we have to leverage the resources at the least possible. And we have to explore all possibilities, all avenues.
Good. Yeah, thank you so much. Manoranjan,
based on an assessment is done, right? So we understand that over 80% of people from the village level to district level, all kinds of stakeholders from PRA and child protection system. So they are not aware actually. The reason is what is spoken in just 1.5 page in Mission Vatsalya, page 18 and 19, right? But the whole gamut is so big. So I think to bring that awareness among the key stakeholders who are responsible, that is very, very important. Second thing is the state actually should also adjust its own GPDP guideline in line with these provisions, right? Because of what Panchayat level, Sarpanch and CWC or DCP, they are facing the challenge is, even if we are interested to allocate the money, for which purpose we will allocate and how to spend, right? But in the ministry's guideline on the GPDP thematic plan, they have suggested a list of actions. In the Mission of Vatsalya, they have also given a broad categories of activities. But a Panchayat Raj, the standing committee members, they are not aware about it, right? So in that sense, the state curriculum for training, providing training for the PRE members, that also needs to be adjusted. If these three things is not going to happen at the state level, I think working with the districts after districts after districts, it will take actually centuries to reach to like 55 panchayats in India. Yeah.
Thank you, Manoranjan. So we will do the questions later, you're saying. So thank you, everybody, for the patient listening. If I can just take 2 minutes. By way of, I think, summarization, what I want to say is, Mission Vatsalya, of course, has this aspiration that, child protection should be integrated in the planning and budgeting process of local governance. But that aspiration alone is not going to be enough. It's very clearly emerging that there has to be an official communication or notification, even at the central government level, MWCD, MOPR, from the Ministry of Panchayati Raj saying this is what has to be done. Either it is child-friendly panchayats or bringing the aspiration or vision outlined in Mission Vatsalya into the local governance process. And I think the other thing which is emerging is the need for institutionalizing coordination between these two ministries at different levels and also with other key stakeholders. And of course, the whole point sir mentioned about accountability and monitoring and what ma'am mentioned about periodic review, that is absolutely important. And I think for me, what was interesting is I heard different points of view on this 5% utilization of 5%. Being utilized for certain infrastructural aspects, which may be contributing to child rights outcome. I'm not saying it's purely this thing, but also hearing what ma'am said, we would like to do more, and this 5% is not enough. So where do we find that money? How do we advocate for that? And perhaps, even giving a guidance around like how can that 5% be utilized beyond that, those which are related to infrastructure. I think those are aspects where organizations like us can play a real role in terms of coming up with a guidance. And I think the last point is really about the workforce strengthening and institutionalizing the capacity building process for both, I think, the DCPU, the women and child welfare, as well as the Panchayati Raj functionaries at different level on this aspect. Because right now it's like two parallel systems and there is a need to bring the two together. And there are great experiments. I hope we'll continue to reflect on this and learn from that. And thank you very much for the esteemed panelists. And thank you, ma'am, for joining us online. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, thank you. Namaste.
Over to you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Vijay, for the wonderful moderation, and thank you all the panelists. Just be with us for 1 more minute. I would request Mr. Oli to please give a gift of gratitude to the panelists and the moderator. Yeah, sir. Yeah. Should we start with the Satya Sanjan Rao, sir?
You will have to courier this to ma'am.
Yes,
Dot
we'll
lines.
definitely. Yes, we'll do.
Okay. Thanks so much. पहले आप फिर time निकल रहा है.
To sir. To Loknath ji.
मैं खुद ले जाऊँ.
To Manoranjan ji.
Proof of expenditure.
Ma'am, ये आपको courier करेंगे. I don't know whether she can hear
We'll
me, but-
definitely courier it,
Yes.
ma'am. Thank you again. And I know there must be a lot of questions to the from the panelists and moderator. But since we are running a little late, and हम उस question को आप pack कीजिए, थोड़ा आप लिख लीजिए अपने notebook में, and in the open discussion we'll take those questions up. Now we have to move to our next panel, which is again a very important panel. As we see, family strengthening is not only for child protection, it's not. It requires a lot of other services from mental health, from disability, from Panchayat Raj, from district authorities, from education. So the next panel discussion is on convergence. And for doing this, we are very privileged to have Ms. Dr. Kiran Modi with us from Udayan Care. I know she needs no introduction, but please, ma'am, over to you. She will be moderating the session and would request ma'am to please take over the stage.
Thank you, Mamta. I'm truly delighted to be invited as a moderator for this session because I get to learn a lot. So thank you, everyone. I will take on from where you left. You know, collaboration, you were talking about how important the collaboration and coordination is amongst different allied services. So this session is all about that. But before I call okay, let me call the panelists first. Chunya Kujur, he is the Mukhia of Kudo Chhatarpur Panchayat, Jharkhand. आपके आने से हम लोग बहुत अच्छा लगा. And then Radhika Alkazi, everybody knows her, founder and managing trustee, Astha. The next in line is Arun Kumar Tripathi. He is the DCPO, Odisha, and who will be joining us online. Can we have a spot? So we have one more person joining us online. His name is Arjun Kapoor. He is the co-director and senior research fellow at the Center for Mental Health Law Policy, Indian Law Society, who is also joining us online. This morning only, I was going through, I mean, all of us are always, on social media, continuously checking. And this morning only, I read a post by a care leaver. I thought it is so apt for today. He said it is time to shift the narrative from surviving to thriving. And he appealed in the post to walk beside families and communities, not ahead of them, but with them, so that we can co-create a world where all children grow up in safe, nurturing families and connected communities, and not in children's homes like I did. That's what you wrote. It was such an eye-opener, and all of us know nothing can be done alone. All of us are single units, but when we become together, it really becomes a coordinated whole, and then only we can help children and families and communities. So I'm really very happy to have this diverse panel here. आप हमारे साथ कुजूर साहब हैं जो कि मुखिया हैं अभी हम लोगों ने पंचायती राज के बारे में काफी सुना. अभी इनसे और हमें जानकारी मिलेगी. मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहती हूँ, इनका इंट्रोडक्शन तो आप लोगों को मिल गया होगा, सबके पास है ना, वो तो पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. जैसा आपने अभी भी सुना और आप तो जानते ही हैं, लोकल गवर्नेंस का बहुत ही की रोल है, बहुत अहम उनका रोल है कि वो वल्नरेबल फैमिलीज तक पहुंच पाए, क्योंकि वो वहीं होते हैं, तो लोकल गवर्नेंस स्ट्रक्चर्स के द्वारा पहुंच सकते हैं. इसमें जो लोकल स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं, लोकल बॉडीज हैं, वो कैसे और अच्छे से एक दूसरे के साथ कोलैबोरेट करें, जिससे कि एक चाइल्ड सेंटर्ड अप्रोच मिल सके फैमिली स्ट्रेंथनिंग को एट द ग्रास रूट्स लेवल. एक जमीनी तौर पे कैसे किन चीज़ों को अपनाया जाए जिससे कि जमीनी तौर पर हम ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा बच्चों तक पहुंच सके.
जी, सबसे पहले आप सबों को मेरा जोहार. बहुत ही अच्छा विषय को लेकर के आज हम लोग यहाँ जुटे हुए हैं, और जो भूमिका ग्राम पंचायत की है उसके बारे में हम लोग बातें कर रहे हैं. और इससे पहले का जो सेशन था हमारा, जो जीपीडीपी का था, और अभी जो है कि हम कैसे ग्राम लेवल में उस परिवार तक पहुंच पाएं जिससे कि वो परिवार सशक्त हो जाए. और जो हम बाल संरक्षण की बात कर रहे हैं, वो बच्चों को हम उनके अधिकार से वंचित ना रहने दें. तो इसके लिए हमारे पास बहुत सारे पंचायत में बहुत सारे संसाधन, अगर बोला जाए तो हमारे पास जो भी डिपार्टमेंट गवर्नमेंट के, जैसे आंगनबाड़ी का, स्वास्थ्य का, शिक्षा का और खाद्य आपूर्ति का, बहुत सारा डिपार्टमेंट हमारे गांव के अंदर में है, जिसके द्वारा हम लोग बात करके, इसमें हमारे साथ संस्थाएं भी जुड़ी रहती हैं, और वहाँ तक पहुँचने के लिए एक प्लान बनाते हैं कि हम कैसे उनके तक पहुँचे और कैसे डाटा कलेक्शन कर पाएँ. और कलेक्शन करने के बाद हम कैसे उनको सुविधा दे पाएं ताकि उनका परिवार सशक्त हो जाए और बच्चे जो हैं अपने अधिकार से वंचित ना हो जाए। तो इसमें हमारा जो ग्राम पंचायत का जो रोल है वो कि उस परिवार को हम पहचानते हैं कि आखिर वो परिवार किस प्रकार से कमजोर है या बच्चा किस प्रकार से ड्रॉप आउट हो जाता है या बच्चा किस प्रकार से अपने आप को कमजोर महसूस करता है, गंभीर महसूस करता है। बच्चा को लगता है कि हम अपने अधिकार से वंचित हो जा रहे हैं। तो हम लोग ग्राम पंचायत में उनको चिन्हित करते हैं कि कौन सा बच्चा किस आधार पर अपने अधिकार से वंचित हो रहा है। जैसे कुछ बच्चे ऐसे होते हैं जिनके माता पिता दोनों मर जाते हैं या दो में से कोई एक मर जाते हैं, वो बच्चा गंभीर परिस्थिति में चला जाता है। कुछ ऐसे बच्चे हैं जिनके माता पिता नशा के आदी हो जाते हैं, वो बच्चे बहुत गंभीर स्थिति में चले जाते हैं। कुछ बच्चों के माता पिता पलायन कर जाते हैं, सीजनेबल जो पलायन बोलते हैं, जिसको कि कुछ महीने बाहर रहते हैं फिर वापस आ जाते हैं। ये अधिकतर देखने को मिलता है और इसका मेन कारण जैसे होता है कि उनके पास अपने गांव में काम नहीं रहता है, जिसके कारण उनको आमदनी नहीं मिल पाता है, जिससे उनके माता पिता गरीबी महसूस करते हैं और दूसरी जगह पैसा या धन अर्जन करने के लिए चले जाते हैं। तो इसमें बच्चा का जो भी परिवार से जो नाता रिश्ता रहता है वो कट हो जाता है। तो इस तरह से हम लोग पहचानते हैं। और कुछ ऐसे भी बच्चे मिलते हैं जो स्वयं नशा के आदी हो जाते हैं, कुछ ऐसे बच्चे मिलते हैं जो दिव्यांग हैं। तो हम लोगों ने इसको अपने सारे दृष्टिकोण से देखकर इन सबों को एक सूची तैयार कर लेते हैं और सूची तैयार करने के बाद सबसे पहले हम लोग उनके माता पिता को उनके साथ बात करते हैं। उनके माता पिता को उन बच्चों के प्रति सजग करते हैं कि ये बच्चे कल के भविष्य हैं और ये बच्चे अगर सही तरीका से परवरिश किए जाएंगे तो कल आपके परिवार के लिए सही होगा और आपका परिवार ग्रोथ करेगा। तो हम लोग उसको जागरूक करते हैं और उस परिवार को जो भी नशा के आदी होते हैं उस पर भी हम लोग सभी तरह से फोकस करते हैं कि वो नशा को कम करे, नशा को बिल्कुल ना करे और उस एरिया में नशा करने वाले मतलब वहाँ के वातावरण को भी हम लोग सही करने का प्रयास करते हैं और उनको पलायन ना करे। इसके लिए हमारे पास बहुत सारी योजनाएं हैं। वो भूखमरी से ना ग्रसित हो या पलायन ना करने को सोचे, इसलिए सरकार की जितनी योजनाएं रहती है उस परिवार तक पहुंचाने का प्रयास करते हैं। जैसे हमारे पास जितने प्रकार की पेंशन योजना होती है वो पेंशन उनको देने के लिए प्रयास किया जाता है। जैसे राशन का है वो देने के लिए प्रयास, जॉब कार्ड बनाया जाता है उनके लिए, आयुष्मान कार्ड बनाया जाता है और तरह तरह की सरकार की योजनाएं जो किसान हैं उनके लिए किसान सम्मान निधि से जोड़ा जाता है, उनके लिए बीज प्रोवाइड किया जाता है। तो इस प्रकार उनको अपने मूल रूप में आने के लिए कि वो अपने ही गांव को अपने ही जगह को सब कुछ सोच सके, इसके लिए हम लोग प्रयास करते हैं। तो ये सब इसलिए कि जो बच्चा है इन तमाम कारणों से अपने आप को महसूस करता है कि उनके जो अधिकार हैं वो छीने जा रहे हैं और इसमें हम लोग जो बच्चे का जो विकास समझे या सुरक्षा समझे या उनका सहभागिता का है वो बच्चे आधा अधूरा रह जाता है, समझ नहीं पाता है और अपनी जिंदगी को वो सही नहीं कर पाता है। तो हम लोगों ने यहाँ पर ग्राम पंचायत में हमारा जो ग्राम पंचायत है इसमें हमारा एक टीम है जो उस टीम में हमारे सारे हितधारक जिसको हम कहते हैं पंचायत के अंदर में वो सारे लोग हैं, जिसमें जैसे पंचायत कल्याण एवं बाल कल्याण एवं संरक्षण समिति, इसमें मुखिया अध्यक्ष होते हैं,
ग्राम पंचायत के जो सचिव होते हैं वो सचिव होते हैं, वार्ड सदस्य उनके सदस्य होते हैं। उस तरह आंगनबाड़ी, स्वास्थ्य या टीचर, विद्यालय के सारे लोग उसमें मेंबर होते हैं। तो इन तरह से ये सारे लोगों का कोऑर्डिनेशन सही है, जिसके कारण कि बच्चों को पहचान करने में हमें दिक्कत नहीं होती है और कोई भी बच्चा ना छूट जाए, इस पर गंभीरता से लिया जाता है और बच्चे को और उनके माता पिता को सही जगह पर, सही दृष्टिकोण को उनके बीच में लाया जाता है और उनके भावनाओं को समझा जाता है। तो इस तरह जो भी बच्चे हैं, अभी तक हमारे यहाँ बच्चों को स्पॉन्सरशिप योजना से भी जोड़ा गया है। जो बच्चे अभी तो हमारे यहाँ ड्रॉप आउट बच्चे नहीं हैं, क्योंकि इस तरह का काम किया गया कि बच्चे अभी जो ड्रॉप आउट थे सभी को एडमिशन करा दिया गया है। और दूसरी तरफ जैसे हम देखते हैं कि जो भी गांव में रहने वाले लोग हैं, वो अपने जो काम है जीविकोपार्जन की कमी है, इसके लिए हम लोगों ने हर एक साल, जैसे इसके पहले हमारा जो जीपीडीपी का जो बात आया, ये हम लोगों ने जीपीडीपी का प्लान जो है बनाते हैं, जो ग्राम पंचायत विकास योजना का जो शुरुआत होता है 2 अक्टूबर से शुरू करते हैं और 31 जनवरी तक हमारा ग्राम पंचायत में इसका काम चलता है। इसका जो प्रोसेस में एक नियोजन दल बनाया जाता है शुरू में, और उस नियोजन दल के द्वारा ग्राम के अंदर वातावरण बनाया जाता है कि आगे के दिन में हम लोग गांव के विकास के लिए योजना बनाएंगे और गांव का ऐसा विकास का योजना बनाएंगे कि हम आज जहां खड़े हैं उससे आगे के दिन में हम आगे बढ़ पाए, वृद्धि कर पाए। इसको लेकर फिर एक संकल्प लिया जाता है कि इस वित्तीय वर्ष में कौन सा संकल्प चयन करें, जिसमें हम लोग 9 थीम की बात करते हैं और 9 थीम में उसमें बाल हितैषी ग्राम भी एक थीम है। उसके बाद हम लोग आगे इसका प्रोसेस में जब बढ़ते हैं तो वहाँ पर पहला हम बाल सभा करते हैं, और बाल सभा इसलिए करते हैं कि बच्चा क्या चाहता है, बच्चा का भावना क्या है। और बाल सभा अलग से इसलिए करते हैं कि बच्चा जो आम तरह का ग्राम सभा होता है जिसमें ग्राम सभा के मेंबर बैठते हैं, वहाँ बच्चा अपने आप को महसूस करेगा कि हम छोटे हैं या बड़ों के सामने क्या बोलें, और अपनी बातों को वह नहीं रख सकता है। इसीलिए जीपीडीपी प्लान के पहले हमारा प्रोसेस है कि पहले बाल सभा हो और बच्चों के साथ मिलकर उनके आवश्यकताओं को उनसे ही समझा जाता है और उनके अनुसार ही हम उनकी मांगों को जीपीडीपी में शामिल करते हैं। उसी प्रकार बाल सभा के बाद हम लोग महिला सभा करते हैं। महिला सभा इसलिए करते हैं कि महिलाएं ग्राम सभा में सभी चीज़ों को नहीं कर पाती हैं और उसमें कुछ रूढ़ियां या परंपराएं जुड़ी हुई हैं, या महिलाओं स्वास्थ्य संबंधी अपनी बातें होती है, इसलिए उनसे भी अलग से ग्राम सभा किया जाता है, महिला सभा किया जाता है। इस तरह हम लोग जीपीडीपी में बाल सभा और महिला सभा करते हैं ताकि बच्चे को उनके अधिकार से वंचित हम ना करें। इस प्रकार जीपीडीपी में महिला सभा के बाद एक और योजना हम लोगों ने लिया है और लेते रहे हैं, VPRP। VPRP में है कि कोई भी लोग सरकार की योजनाओं से वंचित ना रहे। उसमें एक है हकदारी जो व्यक्तिगत होता है, जो व्यक्तिगत रूप से जैसे पेंशन, जिनका उम्र हो गया वृद्धा पेंशन का, उनको पेंशन देना अनिवार्य है। और दूसरा होता है एक आजीविका, जीविकोपार्जन, जिससे कि लोग आय जनरेट कर पाए, जिससे कि लोग कुछ करके वो पैसा बना पाए, या उनका इनकम हो, जिससे वो अपना जीवन स्तर को स्टैंडर्ड कर पाए और एक जगह से दूसरी जगह जाने का प्रयास ना करे। इसलिए इस योजना को शामिल करते हैं। और बाकी जो गुड्स या सर्विसेज उनके लिए जीपीडीपी में लाया जाता है। इस तरह से पूरे जीपीडीपी का सेशन में सभी का समावेश करके एक पूरा योजना बनाया जाता है और उसमें हमारे पास जो ग्राम पंचायत में जो फंड होती है 15 फाइनेंस का फंड, उसमें टाइड और अनटाइड फंड होता है। 60-40 का रेशियो रहता है। इस तरह से हम बच्चों के लिए भी अपने ग्राम पंचायत में बच्चों के मांग के अनुसार, जैसे बच्चों से बात करने पर पता चलता है कि उनकी मांगे क्या हैं। तो जैसे बच्चे मांगते हैं, उदाहरण स्वरूप अगर कहा जाए तो बच्चे मांगते हैं कि विद्यालय में शौचालय होना चाहिए और बालक बालिका का अलग अलग होना चाहिए। ये बच्चों का मांग रहता है। तो हम लोग उसको प्राथमिकता देते हुए उनकी मांगों को स्वीकार करते हैं और जीपीडीपी में शामिल कर देते हैं। तो इस तरह हमारा ग्राम पंचायत जो है बच्चों के लिए भी अपने जो 15 फाइनेंस का फंड होता है उसको खर्च करती है। और हमारे ग्राम पंचायत में मोटा मोटी एक साल का एक फाइनेंशियल ईयर में लमसम 29 लाख का फंड रहता है और उसमें लगभग 4-5 लाख का बच्चों के मांग पर खर्च किया जाता है। तो इस तरह हमारे यहाँ बच्चों के प्रति थोड़ा सजग है और आगे कोशिश की जाएगी कि बच्चे अपने मूल भावना से दूर ना हटे, वो कमज़ोर महसूस ना करें। इसके लिए हमारा जो दल है, जो पंचायत बाल कल्याण एवं संरक्षण समिति, इसका मीटिंग हमेशा होता रहता है। हम लोग प्रत्येक माह प्रयास करते हैं और रिव्यू किया जाता है कि हमने पिछला माह जो भी बात किया है वो संभव हो पाया या नहीं। ये हमेशा देखते रहते हैं।
सर थोड़ा सा मैं आपने इतना अच्छे तरीके से सारा बताया, कितना योजनाबद्ध तरीके से आप लोग गांव में काम कर रहे हैं। लेकिन कई बार जब आप देखते हैं तो इस तरह का बच्चों तक सारी स्कीम्स नहीं पहुंच पाती हैं या फैमिलीज तक नहीं पहुंच पाती हैं। बट व्हाट आई एम लाइकिंग इज द वे you are listening to the voices of families, children, women, और उनको सबको एक जगह लाते हैं और जहाँ तक हो सकता है उनके लिए प्रयास करते हैं। लेकिन इन सारे प्रयासों में स्कीम्स बहुत कुछ अवेलेबल हैं, फिर भी वो कितना पहुँच पाता है ये देखने की बात है। तो थोड़ा सा इन बैरियर्स, इतनी तरह के बैरियर्स हैं जो कि जिनके बारे में आपने नहीं बताया कि बच्चों तक हम कैसे पहुँचें। शायद उसके बारे में आप अगर सेकेंड राउंड हो पाएगा तो मैं आपके पास फिर से आऊँगी जी। In the meantime, I think, I will introduce our second speaker, Radhika ji, and she has been working with in the urban slums of Delhi and especially with disability as her focus. अभी इसके लिए तो मैं आपको ज़रूर बधाई दूंगी। जावेद आबिदी अवार्ड आपको मिला है पब्लिक पॉलिसी के लिए as part of the NCPDP MEFASIS Universal Design Awards. So we are very, very grateful to have you here. And my question to you is, all of us know there are hundreds of schemes, and the schemes can be made available. But in the previous session, we also heard that it's not possible always to get all those schemes rolling. So what are the barriers basically that you have encountered, especially in terms of disabilities? What are these persistent barriers? What factors contribute to these barriers, and what can be the protective factors which can take away these barriers? Can you please also tell some innovative approach that you've taken so that the families and communities can be strengthened, especially children with disabilities?
Thank you so much. I'd just like to start by saying that, of course, it's been very informative and educative for me the last session. So my mind is buzzing with Panchayati Raj and how to use it for children with disabilities. Just to say that, the right to live in the family, because it's very often thought that children with disabilities are all right in an institution. And we need to really look at our policies, laws, even Mission Vatsalya. We very carefully look at it to see what exactly are we saying for this child. Are we saying that she has a right to live in the community, or are we saying that she can be put into a home? So that's the first point I'd like to make. That's a barrier. Because the UNCRPD and our own Rights for Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 reiterates the right of the child to live in the home. And if not in the home, in an alternative care situation, in a family situation. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. Families of children with disabilities, as you know, are often very isolated. And Beth made a point about isolation as being a very, one of the vulnerabilities. So these families tend to get isolated because of many different reasons. What is it that is required, and where are the barriers? What tends to happen is that there's very little information for the family about how to enable the child with disabilities. So when there is very little publicly available information right next to my house, in my home, about what should I do, where should I take my child, what are the things that will enable my child, families very often give up and the child gets lost. Families need to know that they are not alone. They need to be part of other families and circles of support because they get very isolated. And that becomes a barrier when a family is very, very alone. Very often families, when they come to organizations like Asta, they say, oh my God, there are other families like us. And then the process starts of people getting together. Access to services, access to rehabilitation services is not there in our country near to the home. Families are traveling. Sir ne abhi migration ki baat ki. Families are traveling from UP to Delhi. AIIMS mein jana hai to find out मैं क्या करूँ अपने बच्चे के लिए. So migration, coming, traveling for 25 kilometers to get a blood transfusion for a child with sickle cell anemia. Those things break up families. Very often they are traveling and, the mother or, the mother comes or the other children are left behind in the village. So that's another area where we have to be able to see that services are available close to families in the primary health centers and others. Rehabilitation services need to be available. All sectors of development, education, early childhood, health, protection, need to welcome this child. At present, we are not welcoming the child. At present, what we are saying is, thoda dur, I don't know what to do with you. Or we are saying, I don't think I have anything to do with you. This is a historical thing because also, if you look at governance, the child with disabilities has always been in another department. The social justice and empowerment has not historically been part of the mandate of women and child. Now is becoming a mandate. So I think we have to accelerate the process. So I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just stating facts here. The law, of course, if you look at the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, talks about many things. It talks about inclusive education, priority in health care, protection for abuse, from abuse, violence, and exploitation. It recognizes the caregiver and says that there have to be caregiver allowances. These things haven't happened as yet, but I'm just making it a point because in family strengthening, very often also, there are disability-related needs. Caregivers cannot go out to work sometimes, a mother, So caregiver allowance and support to caregivers, the law recognizes, it's a category in our law. Also, we're talking about vulnerability. The law also recognizes children and people with high support needs. So we've talked today of all kinds of vulnerabilities. Let's add to that. Yes, children with disabilities are vulnerable. Within that, there are children who have higher support needs than others. And if you look at social structures, then there'll be many other things that we would add, like single parent, grandparent-led families, and much else when we talk about vulnerability, because all of that goes across for this child with disabilities too. Now, there are specific schemes in our country for children with disabilities, but they are small and the reach is not large. And that's another barrier because it doesn't reach the child. Of course, I see now that many things don't reach all our children. But what I'm trying to say is here, at present, all that the law promises, because all our implementation is in the nature of schemes, on the ground. So there are many things that don't have schemes. We don't have the schemes only. We need to really sit down and think, क्या-क्या scheme होना चाहिए, ताकि या किस scheme में इस बच्चे को include होना चाहिए. My next point is that schemes for all children. They need to include this child because there are schemes for all children, particularly our flagship schemes for girls, anything else that we are talking about today. And we need to really look to see, for that, they need to be a little more flexible. And that designing, I think, perhaps if we are talking inclusion, we need to go back to the design board and start looking at these schemes. Schools, Anganwadis, DCPUs, we've talked about Mission Vatsalya, Panchayats, all, they need to proactively reach out to this family. It will not do at this point, when that families will not come to these institutions. All these institutions do have mechanisms by which they are to go out and they are to, jaise sir ne abhi kaha, actually reaching out, making lists, finding out where the child is, because the child with disabilities is often hidden. So that proactive outreach is required, and we need to see that those mechanisms become stronger, where you're actually going out and reaching to the child, because then you will find that the child will come out and the family can be strengthened.
Can we come back to you later? I mean, you're giving so many different aspects, and really focusing on the different barriers. And actually, here, this is where all the allied departments with the social welfare, whether it is health, education, mental health, or disability services, everything should come together. When I think of, the study that we did beyond 18 with the care levers, 500 with UNICEF, and in that study, we tried to find care levers with disabilities, and we could not find any. Where did they go? Nobody knows. And we did a recent study in CCIs in one particular state, and we found 60% children are there with disabilities. So you're saying absolutely correctly, the schemes are there, but minuscule, and the awareness is even less. So when you don't even know what schemes are there, how you're going to get them, into those schemes. So I will come back to you a little later.
Okay.
Because, time is, I know you have a lot of things to say.
No, I'll later just talk about some of the innovative strategies. But
So
that's
that I
later.
will come back to you later for your recommendations. Yeah, that will be a good idea. So now people on the screen. So sorry, you've been a little neglected so far. So we have here Arun Kumar Tripathi ji. He is the District Child Protection Officer from Odisha. Odisha has some very good practices. So it seems there is an overdose of Odisha here today. But I've heard, a lot about that. As you know, Arunji, can you hear me?
Yeah, madam. Boliye, madam.
So there is a growing evidence that well-designed family strengthening initiatives can really prevent unnecessary separation. and reliance on institutional care. We have to, put children back into families. But can you please share some examples? What are these successful family strengthening initiatives by which we can all, benefit?
Yeah. Madam, good afternoon to all. Madam, actually, we is a district child protection officer in the district of Gajpati, Odisha. We can say that the family strengthening program of Odisha are actually strengthening the family of needy children. We are working some family strengthening program. One is sponsorship, which is coming under Mission Bachelya. Another is Asrivad, which is coming under the Odisha government scheme. Those children who are lost their father and mother during Corona, and those who are lost their breadwinner during Corona, the Odisha government providing financial support. In parentless case, 2,500 per month to each child, and 1,500 to each child in the case who lost their breadwinner only. This support is starting from 2021. Now it is continuing. We are submitting the result after 4 years. In 2025, in our district figure, 1,512 children are getting financial support under the Asrivad. From 21 to 25, between the period, 312 children attained age 18-year-olds. Out of 312 children, about 116 children are continuing their higher education. 43 children are continuing technical education with the support of District Child Protection Unit and with local PRI member or local ICDS member, with the support of ICDS member and local PRI member. At CPU, out of 312, 127 children are reading in higher education, 42 children are reading in technical education, and 16 children are doing job. Hence, we will tell, no doubt, the Asrivad जो finance support दे रहा है Asrivad का under state government, this is supporting to the family strengthening of the needy children, of the CNCP children. और हम बात कर सकते हैं जो मिशन बच्चन का स्पॉन्सरशिप सपोर्ट में we are supporting 412 children under sponsorship support. Means जो 4,000 per month दे रहा है, that is the figure in our district is 412. In 4,000, we are regularly our people, the people of DCPU are going to the family in every quarter. That the 4,000 is exactly this is used for the children or not. We are discussing with the Anganwadi workers, ICDS people. We are visiting their school, what is their attendance in every month. We are discussing with ward member, or we are discussing with the sarpanch that our 4,000 is actually using for the children or not. माने वो जो माने या स्पॉन्सरशिप और आशीर्वाद को छोड़ के जो भी स्कीम है गवर्नमेंट का, लाइक इन ओडिशा देयर इज ओडिशा आदर्श विद्यालय. इन ओडिशा आदर्श विद्यालय देयर इज प्री स्कूलिंग ऑन सीबीएसई कोर्स. Free schooling on CBSE course. In Odisha Adarsh Vidyalaya, there is quota for collector. There is quota for collector and district magistrate. We are those children are interesting English medium, or those. Hello.
मैं आपको थोड़ा एक मिनट कुछ कहना चाहती हूँ. वी डोंट हैव मच टाइम. आपने इतने अच्छे से सब बताया, अलग अलग स्कीम्स में कितने बच्चों को कितना फ़ायदा हो रहा है. और सबसे अच्छी चीज़ मुझे ये लगी कि DCPOs पर्सनली जा के विजिट करते हैं फैमिलीज़ को. जब तक वो पर्सनल एलिमेंट नहीं आएगा, सरकारी फोर्स की तरफ से भी बात नहीं बनेगी. एटलीस्ट आई नो इन द कम्युनिटी दैट वी आर वर्किंग इन, वन ऑफ द DCPOs, ही रियली वेंट आउट ऑफ हिज way, and he raised funds also, from private donors to help the children. अब आपसे और थोड़ा बात करेंगे बाद में, पता नहीं टाइम भी बचेगा कि नहीं, but I really want to understand the recommendations from you. But before that, I would like to go to now the next speaker. He is, where is his name? Arjun Kapoorji, and all of us are very much interested in mental health, because this is really, taking India by storm. Even normal, children, normal youth, everybody, it seems to be having mental health issues. He is the co-director and senior research fellow at the Center for Mental Health Law Policy, India Law Society. He has joined us online. Welcome, sir. So my question to you is, can you, we see that, there is a growing evidence that mental health support services are really crucial, but there aren't as many mental health professionals available or mental health services available. So what are the key elements by which we can increase the resilience in the families? We can address their intergenerational trauma. Do you think MHPSS can be better integrated with education, life skills, and livelihoods so that the families get empowered, and especially the families at the last mile?
Sure. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Everybody can hear me? Okay, great. Thank you so much, first of all, to IACN for inviting me. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. And thank you for your question, Kiran. So I think the first point that I just wanted to make is, I think when we look at mental health and suicide prevention and the way this has been addressed historically, not just in our country, but across the world, is that it's largely been seen as a biomedical issue, which means you locate the mental health problem within the individual, and then the focus becomes about curing the individual through biomedical treatments, sometimes counseling and therapy, but mostly psychiatry and other forms of biomedical interventions. However, now we know with enough evidence across the world that mental health is not just a biomedical issue. It is a social, political, it's an economic issue. It's a cultural problem. And so any interventions around mental health and psychosocial support have to address the key determinants, the social determinants, the cultural determinants, whether it's, जैसे कि कुजूर जी ने बहुत सरलता से एक्सप्लेन किया था उनके इंटरवेंशन में right in the beginning as to what are the kinds of problems that families are experiencing, right? Mental health challenges tend to be an outcome of the life problems that families and children are experiencing. So whether that's poverty, whether that's abuse, whether that's trauma that has come down generations, whether it's mental health problems of parents themselves, whether it's intergenerational issues, whether it's financial debt, so on and so forth, all of that tends to have an impact on the entire family as a system. And of course, children then become one of the along with the parents and the other members of the family, children sort of receive the brunt of the sort of burden that the family is experiencing because of all of these issues. So I think the first thing that I wanted to clarify is to say that when we're talking of mental health and psychosocial support, we have to look at a model where it's not seen as something separate or is addressed as a silos, but is integrated in all of our programs and schemes, whether it's disability, whether it's children who are living within childcare institutions or observation homes, whether it's how education is provided in schools and higher educational institutions, so on and so forth. So instead of looking at mental health as a separate issue, which is usually generally dealt by the Department of Health and Family Welfare in most state jurisdictions, I think we need to move to an approach where departments across the board begin to look at integrating mental health programming within their existing policies and programs. So that's the first point. The second point that I wanted to make is in terms of convergence. I think one of the things, and I think one of the points that has also come up is that there are a lot of programs and schemes, but they don't reach the last mile. People who are in the most underserved settings and most vulnerable settings. And I think there we need to look at more community-based models of mental health care and psychosocial support. And I think there are a lot of models both outside the world, across the world, but even in India, there are various community-based models, whether it's looking at suicide prevention, whether it's looking at lay counseling. And the idea of community-based models is actually to move away from the onus that we place on experts, that is mental health professionals and psychiatrists and psychologists. And I think we should accept the fact that given our population and the needs in our country, we'll never have enough mental health professionals and psychiatrists. And even if we did, it is quite likely that that's not going to have a very conducive impact on the mental health status of both children and their families. And there are various reasons for that. One is, of course, that mental health support is not always about biomedical interventions or therapy or counseling. We have to look at community-based models, whether it's peer support, whether it's training people or functionaries. Say, for instance, if you're looking at childcare institutions, you're looking at child protection officers, you're looking at staff within those spaces, you're looking at school teachers, you're looking at panchayat members, you're looking at volunteers within village context. The idea is to empower them with the necessary skills, which they can then utilize in providing psychosocial support to people in the community. Not everybody needs to go and see a psychiatrist and a psychologist. So I think we need to consider models of care, and this is where the convergence needs to happen. This is where, for instance, programs like Mission Vatsalya, or you have the Rashtra Swasthya Karyakram, the RKSK, or you have the school health and wellness programs. These are programs which are already recognizing the need for psychosocial support, but the implementation of these programs are in different contexts. So for instance, SHWP, the school health wellness program, gets implemented within school settings, where you're training school teachers and adolescents or peers in providing mental health literacy and providing basic mental health support. Now, as far as I know, some of the modules of the school health wellness program don't explicitly refer to child protection. There are some issues around abuse. There is a module on emotional support and mental health care, but I think we need to look at child protection in a far more expansive manner and look at integrating some of these perspectives within the context of the school health and wellness program. Similarly, you have the RKSK, which runs adolescent-friendly health clinics. Now, within the RKSK, you have a model where adolescents in the community can be trained as peers to provide information, to provide mental health support, to provide resources, and to make those referral linkages between families and children to the district mental health program or other policies and programs. So I think we need to look at models which are then, again, integrating child protection within the RKSK model, within the adolescent-friendly health clinics, and then build linkages through those specific mechanisms. So then your challenge of actually reaching community members and ensuring that they're actually benefiting from these schemes gets solved, because you're involving community themselves in providing that peer support and informational support. So I think that's the second point that I wanted to make. And the third point that I wanted to make was India has a fairly extensive law and policy framework for mental health and suicide prevention. So we have the Mental Health Care Act of 2017, which clearly talks about how custodial institutions, and in this context would be where, homes where children are residing, or childcare institutions or observation homes, staff within custodial institutions must be trained so that they are aware that if there is a child within that institutional space who requires specialized support and care, then they're able to make those referrals to the relevant health authorities or the mental health establishments where the child can receive that support and care. The second is the National Mental Health Policy, which is actually quite a progressive document, because for the first time, you have a policy document which is recognizing mental health as an intersectoral issue. So it talks of poverty, it talks of homelessness, it talks of life skills education, it talks of financial debt, providing financial support, but it also talks about involving panchayats and community stakeholders in the policy making process. So I think the whole question around and I know there's been a lot of discussion around involving panchayats. I think there's a lot of scope for us to build and strengthen capacities of panchayats in mental health, psychosocial support and care, so that then they're able to effectively develop programmatic interventions at the panchayat level, at the village level, to ensure that some of these law and policy frameworks and these provisions are actually implemented on the ground. Similarly, you have the Rights of Disabilities Act, which Radhika has already talked about. And you also have the National Suicide Prevention Strategy, which very specifically talks about life skills education in schools. It's talking about gatekeeper trainings, where you're training staff within health facilities or in community settings to actually identify whether children or adolescents or young people who might be showing signs of suicide can be identified in time and provided support and care. So in summary, I'd say integration is most primary. And I think other sectors, including child protection, need to look at the mental health and psychosocial support law policy framework in India, and then look at how these convergences and integrations can happen at a programmatic level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, you're absolutely rightly stressed upon that mental health can't be taken as a silo. And all the allied departments, everyone must converge, and ultimately it should go down to the community. Unless the community is involved in the mental health services, you don't need really, psychiatrists and psychologists at every level. It's only when, extreme cases that you need, and many things can be handled. So this conversation is going on so interesting, and I would love to continue, but I know the time is very little. So we will take, a few recommendations, and we have only 5 minutes. So we will start with you. Yeah, do you have, I really loved your positive attitude, because you had so many nice things to say, but going by the previous panels, we also realized that there are certain gaps, in those. So would you give us some recommendation how to fill those gaps, and how at the local level, the local bodies can help in a better way, so that the children get integrated, they don't get separated, and those who are coming back, they also get reintegrated back into communities. Only 1 minute, please. If you want to think that in the meantime, why don't you? Yeah. You can think in the meantime, please.
Just quickly to take on from what Arjun said, even for children with disabilities, you don't always need specialists. There's plenty of experience in our country. Community-based rehabilitation has been happening for years. And so we need to think about that. The other thing is DPOs, mothers groups, strong mothers groups, plenty of them in the country. Please have a look. And that's what builds the resilience.
Wow.
And we see it again and again, how parents become strong when they get together. Information is shared, they have the correct information, and they become, it's like an alternative family. Thank you.
थैंक यू। चुनिया साहब, अब आप बताएं आपका कोई भी सुझाव जिससे कि लास्ट माइल तक जो हम पहुंचाना चाहते हैं वो पहुंच पाए और बच्चे अपने परिवारों से न बिछड़े।
जी, ये मेरा सुझाव रहेगा कि जो हमारे ग्राम पंचायत में जो टीम है, जो बच्चों के कल्याण और संरक्षण के लिए काम करती है, इसको अच्छा प्रशिक्षण मिले और जिला से या स्टेट से उनको ऐसा उन विषय पर जानकारियां दी जाए कि वो उनके तक पहुंच पाए और उनको समझाने में सक्षम हो जाए और उनको अपने ओर आकर्षित कर पाए। ये मेरा सुझाव रहेगा।
जी, सो आपका कहना ये है स्कीम्स तो हैं लेकिन उनके बारे में अवेयरनेस फैलानी चाहिए। ये प्रोग्राम स्टेट लेवल पे, डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे, ब्लॉक लेवल पे सब जगह होना चाहिए जिससे लोगों को पता चले कि किन स्कीम्स के द्वारा वो अपना फायदा उठा सकते हैं।
जी जी
जी, अब मैं अरुण जी, वुड यू हैव एनी रिकमेंड? अरुण जी, डीसीपीओ ओडिशा।
Yeah, madam.
जी, आप क्या सुझाव देना चाहेंगे?
My recommendation to strengthening the GP system on child protection. Strengthening to GP system. ग्राम पंचायत जो लाइन डिपार्टमेंट है ना उसको स्ट्रेंथनिंग करना है ऑन चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन रिगार्डिंग द responsibility and different schemes. हेलो,
समझ में आ गया?
हेलो,
मेरे को okay, Arjun ji, can we come back to you? And you have only 1 minute again. Actually,
Yes.
we are overrunning time. So
Not
we
a problem.
have
I'll
your
pack it up.
recommendation.
I'll pack it up in a minute. Okay, so first recommendation, all child protection stakeholders, from disability to juvenile justice to the entire sort of sector, need to look at integrating mental health psychosocial support, which means training and building capacities of their functionaries and staff to provide mental health care support at a community level. The second is, I think there needs to be some kind of intersectoral coordination mechanism where you have the WCD departments of the ministries who are collaborating with planning and development, health, youth affairs, education, etc., etc. And there needs to be a coordination mechanism where referral linkages are being established and where each of these stakeholders need to be integrating mental health programming that's happening in a coordinated manner. And the third and final recommendation is strengthening capacities of panchayats in providing psychosocial support and in developing programmatic interventions at the village level, at the city, urban level. In that context is the urban local governance bodies, and to engage families and children in both the design, development, and implementation of these policies. Because unless you don't do that, your policies are going to be meaningless.
Thank you so much. Although the time has run out, but can I take just 1 minute to sum up? Yeah. So we've been listening to our esteemed panelists, and so many ideas were thrown. And I would just like to sum up a few which I have been able to retain. It's very important to economically strengthen the families and communities. Unless they have a means of livelihood and they have cash transfers and different linkages to schemes, it's very difficult for them. So we have to understand that and do that. Then parenting support and psychosocial counseling that we've been talking about, it's so important to reach out. So there should be parenting programs, there should be psychosocial counseling available at the community level. Then children should get all kinds of access. Chunia साहब ने भी बोला था, बच्चों को health, education, nutrition, इनकी access मिलनी बहुत ज़रूरी है. तभी जब एक बच्चा खुश होगा तो परिवार खुश होगा, परिवार खुश होगा तो समुदाय खुश होगा. Disability support and inclusive care is very, very important. Most of the time, parents also don't realize that the child has some kind of a disability. By the time they realize, it becomes little late. So more disability awareness program should be there, and it should be within reach. They should not be treated as exclusion. Everywhere they should be included. Then community-based, I think we also talked about family resource centers. And I think those kind of resource centers are the need of the day, where community-based childcare and respite care can be given, so that people can be, they can, in communities, people can do their work and go on to do other things. One thing that we didn't speak in this particular session so much, but I personally think the most important thing is legal documents and identity papers. I'm not talking only about children coming from institutions, but even in the community, we have been working in the communities, and we find most of the time they don't have proper papers. If you don't have proper papers, how do you get any kinds of pensions or schemes? So all the organizations who are working in communities, they have to ensure that everybody has the relevant schemes. And last but not the least, which we have been talking about, participation and ownership of families and communities and children, women, everyone is very, very important. Unless we make it, make it their program, things can't work. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you to the audience.
Thank you very much.
That was a wonderful moderation. Am I audible now? Yes, thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful moderation, and thank you to all the panelists for sharing their insight with us and experiences. I would request Vasundhara, ma'am, from Center for Excellence for Alternative Care, to please present the mementos to the moderator and panelists, and to people online, you will receive your mementos soon. To Kiran, ma'am. Thank you, Vasundhara ma'am. Thank you, Kiran ma'am. Thank you, Radhika ji. Thank you, sir.
Thank you to you.
Thank you.
And to ISN.
So now we are keeping the floor open for questions. I know we did not take any questions during panel 1. We have all the speakers and moderators with us online and here in the room. So if anyone has any questions, any reflection, we can take a few questions right now. So please feel free to ask your questions. And if people online, if they have any questions, so please, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
I think this is from the first panel discussion. I have two questions. One is the full form of VPRP, somewhere not clear. And the second thing, in the first session, we spoke a lot about GPDP. So I just wanted to know from especially the panel member from Odisha, because a lot has been shared by them. If there is any good practices in this regard, can be shared. Thank you.
GPDP is Gram Panchayat Development Plan, and that is a standard document every year Panchayat has to do to get the funding support from government. Without GPDP, Panchayat cannot get support. So it is every year they are doing this. And before GPDP, actually, particularly in child protection, what do we do actually? In few panchayats, we have activated the standing subcommittee. What they did, I don't have the material right now, but it is with CRS and we can share it with you also. The standing committee, they did a mapping of all the children in the panchayat. And after mapping, they do the prioritization. Basing on the priority, suppose in a panchayat, 10 children identified with different vulnerabilities, and out of 10, only 2 are eligible to get support from through sponsorship. So they are recommended to CWC. And the rest of the children, suppose somebody requires support for higher education, they are fit into Green Passage. There is a scheme in the state of Odisha, Green Passage, that we call. Somebody required support for treatment. Somebody required support for nutrition. Somebody required some support for some emergency support. For example, one child with HIV, she required support to go to the ART center every month, and some support for high protein nutrition supplement. So that was provided. So once we did the prioritization, it is intimated to GPDP. The standing committee intimates the child protection plan to GPDP, and GPDP includes that and allocate budget for that, and that is uploaded in the e-Gram Swaraj portal. That is done. That is done. In few panchayats, it is done. We did it in many, about 400 panchayats, but this type of thing is done in few panchayats. But as I said, in many panchayats, there is apprehension with the panchayat executive officer that we may face audit objection and other things.
Sir, I have also asked for VPRP, the full form of VPRP.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir.
ये VPRP विलेज पॉवर्टी रिडक्शन प्लान यानी ग्राम गरीबी न्यूनीकरण योजना, इसमें मैंने बताया पहले भी इसको कि इसमें प्लान लिया जाता है पहला कि व्यक्तिगत प्लान जिसमें लोगों का हक हो। हक कहने का मतलब अगर कोई दिव्यांग है तो उसको दिव्यांग के लिए सरकार ने जितनी योजना बनाई है उसके लिए तो वो उनको मिलना चाहिए। दूसरी बात है कि जीविकोपार्जन के लिए, जीविकोपार्जन यानी हर हाथ को काम, इसलिए हमने उसको बनाया। और ये SHG ग्रुप जो होते हैं, जो सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप की बात हम करते हैं गांव में, उनके लिए है, उनके द्वारा इसको कि ऐसे कोई भी लोग ना बचे, कोई भी परिवार ऐसा ना बचे जो कि अपने व्यक्तिगत योजना से वंचित हो, ऐसा कोई भी लोग ना रहे जिसको काम ना मिले। तो उस तरह के योजना को हम VPRP कहते हैं। जी,
Thank you, sir. I'll come back to you, Niyati. There is someone from the online, Uma Shankar ji. आप प्लीज अपने आप को अनम्यूट करके अपना सवाल पूछ सकते हैं और ये भी बताइए कि सवाल आप किससे पूछ रहे हैं।
नमस्कार मैम,
नमस्ते।
मैं सेंटर फॉर एक्सीलेंस इन अल्टरनेटिव केयर CAC छत्तीसगढ़ से बोल रहा हूँ। हम लोग फॉस्टर केयर के ऊपर काम कर रहे हैं। कुछ मैं अपनी बातें बताना चाहता हूँ, विशेष रूप से जो हम लोग कम्युनिटी फॉस्टर केयर के ऊपर अभी हम लोगों ने 3 बच्चे समुदाय से प्लेस कर रहे हैं इकट्ठे किए हुए हैं, और अभी निकट में 17 बच्चों को और हम लोग करने वाले हैं। हम लोग जो चैलेंजिंग फेस कर रहे हैं मैम, जो विशेष रूप से मैं सरगुजा संभाग से बोल रहा हूँ, यहाँ पे आदिवासी समुदायों में ढूकू एक प्रथा है। मुझे लगता है झारखंड के जो साथी हैं वो ढूकू प्रथा को जानते होंगे, जो पैनल के आपके मेंबर्स भी हैं। तो वो वहाँ पे ये हो रहा है कि वहाँ के बच्चे वल्नरेबल बहुत ज्यादा हो जा रहे हैं। तो उनकी हम लोग कुछ अभी DCPO के साथ मिलकर एक स्टडी भी किया था, और उन्होंने मतलब 205 बच्चों तक हम लोगों ने पहुंच बनाई, और उसमें जो भी उनकी समस्याएं थी उनको दूर किए। और उसमें से 18 बच्चे जो उनके माता पिता कहीं छोड़ के चले गए हैं, वो किसी दूसरे के भरोसे अभी जीवित थे। ऐसे बच्चों को हम लोग फॉस्टर फैमिली चिन्हांकित करके उनको दे तो रहे हैं, पर एक हमारा पहुंच का एक नियत स्थान ही है। हम लोग पूरे एरिया में पहुंच तो नहीं बना सकते। अगर जो अनटाइड फंड की व्यवस्था हमारे पास पंचायत में है, उस अनटाइड फंड का उपयोग अगर थोड़ी सी जागरूकता बढ़ाने के रूप में, या फिर अगर जो ग्राम सभा का जो एजेंडा डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल से बन के जाता है, उस एजेंडा में पर्टिकुलर चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन के लिए इस योजनाओं के प्रचार प्रसार के लिए हो, तो नंबर ऑफ फैमिलीज आइडेंटिफाई होंगे। तो इस प्रक्रिया को कैसे और तेजी से करा जाए ताकि ज्यादा से ज्यादा वल्नरेबल फैमिली तक हम लोग पहुंच बनाए, इसका क्या स्ट्रेटजी हो सकता है, इसमें मैं इसका जवाब चाहता हूँ।
देखिए, GPDP का पंचायत का जो अनटाइड फंड है वो बहुत लिमिटेड है। इट इज ओनली 5% ऑफ द अनटाइड ग्रांट। पंचायत का टोटल ग्रांट का 40% होता है अनटाइड, उसका 5% है जो बच्चों के लिए है। इसको हम यूज कर सकते हैं, लेकिन जो आप जैसे बता रहे हैं कि अवेयरनेस करने के लिए उसको हम यूज करना चाहते हैं, तो ये भी एक स्टेप फॉरवर्ड है। अब तक जितना काम हो रहा है ये सारे काम हो रहा है कंस्ट्रक्शन का। अगर कुछ सॉफ्टवेयर में हो तो अच्छा है. पंचायत can plan.
Thank you. Niyati, you have a question?
Not sort of a question. I think thoda reflection bhi hai and something we can all think together. First of all, thank you for the manual and congratulations. जो आज एक पैनल ने आई थिंक दोनों पैनल में एक रूरल कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जिस तरह से काम हो रहा है उसको शेयर किया, जो कि बहुत ही अच्छी तरीके से उन्होंने शेयर किया. और उससे ही रिलेटेड ये चीज़ है कि काफ़ी टाइम ये होता है उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में कि the lines between family, extended family and community are often blurred. And मतलब वो मौका भी है कि हम तीनों स्तर पर एक साथ किस तरीके से काम करें वो हमें देखना चाहिए. और जो कि मैनुअल में मैंने एक जगह पे देखा भी, और एक लाइट टच जो सेक्शन रखा है, ऑल्दो इट्स कॉल्ड लाइट टच, आई थिंक वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा इम्पॉर्टेंट एक फैक्टर है कि कम्युनिटीज़ को स्ट्रेंथन करने में, जो कि इसके बाद में भी शेयर हुआ था कि हमारे पास इतने रिसोर्सेज भी नहीं है, जो कि हमें ऑलरेडी पता है. तो कम्युनिटीज़ को हम कैसे स्ट्रेंथन करेंगे और इन सबको ये सब फैक्टर्स को कैसे इंटीग्रेट करेंगे इन सारे स्तरों पे, ताकि हम इवेंट्स पर काम ना करें पर रिस्क्स के लेवल पे हम लोग उस पर काम किया जाए. एंड ऑल्सो कि एक केस भी शेयर किया गया था अबाउट चाइल्ड मैरिज, एंड यू नो हाउ इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट टू कीप ऑन एडिंग रिसोर्सेज एंड कीप ऑन फॉलोइंग अप. सो वो भी एक रियलाइजेशन कि ये काफ़ी ह्यूमन इंटेंसिव एंड ह्यूमन रिसोर्स इंटेंसिव काम है. तो उस तरीके के हमारी भी एक लेवल की सबकी तैयारी और ट्रेनिंग होना बहुत ज़रूरी हो जाता है, ताकि इसको हम मतलब उसी मजबूती से बनाए रखें. थैंक यू.
Thank you, Niyati.
Okay, someone at the back. So I think first I would like to congratulate all of us and especially IACN for organizing this entire thing. Also, एक रिफ्लेक्शन जो है कि हम लोग काफ़ी टाइम बाद एक स्टेप आगे बढ़े हैं, जहाँ पे हम ऐसे सिचुएशंस की भी बात कर रहे हैं, ऐसे लोकेशंस की बात कर रहे हैं जहाँ मे बी रिसोर्सेज ज़्यादा रिच नहीं है. इट्स नॉट अ वेरी हैवी रिसोर्सफुल डिस्ट्रिक्ट और प्लेसेस दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. एंड कैसे हम बात कर रहे हैं कि जब हम फैमिलीज़ और कम्युनिटीज़ के साथ भी काम कर रहे हैं, हम उनको कैसे एम्पावर करें इस चीज़ के लिए. इट्स नॉट कि वो कैसे डिपेंडेंट हो जाए आगे जाके. So that is a good step ahead. My question is for Radhika ma'am. Ma'am, so children with disabilities, and this is me coming from a completely urban area, children with disabilities and their families quite often go through layers of exclusion. It can be at the occupational level, professional level, then there's the emotional level that they go through. So if you look at policies, what do you think? How can the systems inculcate policies, and what should be in those policies at the designing level to ensure that these families do not actually fall through these cracks?
So, I mean, one is, of course, as I said, inclusion in all, you know, when we're talking about children, rather than just having separate, we have very strong policies, you know, we do have, and law, we do. I mean, it's important to study this RPWD Act. It's a very good act. But when after the law, there's a vacuum. So that is what we really need to fill. And we cannot fill it just by having separate things for children with disabilities. That won't work because, I mean, children with disabilities are part of every subgroup in society, isn't it? So they're girls, they're boys, they're tribal children, they also are children who get married early, trafficked, everything. So, so rather than separating them, if we build, you know, if we include them in all the planning that we have for children, I think that'll be a huge step forward. Because then you're not getting, and it is important to look and see whether, I think, you know, I'd go a step backwards to see whether we have all the schemes that are required for all children, and holistically, so for support, I think So it's not just a question of access to a scheme, but what is the scheme and how does it include the child? Because the other important thing is the rights of this child. The thinking has changed, but our policy, I mean, our internationally, there's a huge shift in the way we thought, but somewhere in our schemes and all, we're still at the, somewhere still to come to that, just to say that.
Where I would say to Vandana and to Prabhat, I think you should have a reservoir of the stuff that UNICEF has done in this country. 24, 25 years ago, UNICEF India office, along with the Ministry of Health, launched a program on community-based rehabilitation program for children with disability who were in CCIs. How can they remain with their families, and the community would have services for it linked to the primary health center. And it was Orissa State that was the first state that had said, welcomed it. I have no idea where it is today. But I'm just saying that this was initiated by the Ministry of Health, Government of India, along with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, this was done. And so it's like reinventing the wheel every 20 years, 10 years, we go back and we keep talking the same thing, which this country has done, but we have no history of it, and that's the sad tragedy.
Thank you, ma'am. Very quickly, Subhadeep ji, क्योंकि हम समय अभी खत्म होने वाला है.
हाँ, वेरी क्विकली एक सुझाव जो मुझे लग रहा है, जो मैंने सीखा हूँ फ्रॉम माई ईयर्स ऑफ वर्क एंड प्रैक्टिस इन द कम्युनिटीज, वी आर ऑल लिविंग इन अ डेटा ड्रिवन वर्ल्ड. ठीक है, लोग भाग रहे हैं डेटा को लेके, एंड डेटा इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर जनरेटिंग एविडेंस एंड ऑल. तो यहाँ पे पंचायत के लोग बैठे हुए हैं जो काम कर रहे हैं ग्रामीण स्तर पे, एंड इन बोथ द पैनल्स वी लर्न अबाउट के हाउ वी कैन स्ट्रेंथन द पंचायत एंड लोकल गवर्नेंस सिस्टम. तो एक बात आई थी मैम, आपने जो कहा आपके सेशन में कि लोकलाइजिंग एसडीजीज जो है पंचायत लेवल पे अगर हम देखेंगे तो नियर अबाउट 577 580 इंडिकेटर्स हैं जो पंचायत को फुलफिल करना है अक्रॉस 9 जीपीडीपी थीम्स. तो और वो डेटा इसलिए इम्पॉर्टेंट है क्योंकि हर बार जब रिव्यू मीटिंग्स होती है डीसीज या कलेक्टेड ऑफिस में, तो लोग डेटा मांगते हैं कि कितना हमने अचीव किया है. तो जितने भी स्कीम्स एंड योजनाएं पॉलिसीज वगैरह है वो उसी के आधार पे हैं, फैमिली स्ट्रेंथनिंग. तो अगर हम उस चीज़ के ऊपर थोड़ा सा फोकस करें, जोर दें कि हाउ वी कैन एक्चुअली मेन स्ट्रीम फैमिलीज और लिंक फैमिलीज विद दोज एचडी इंडिकेटर्स, फैमिली स्ट्रेंथनिंग विल वर्क ऑटोमेटिकली. तो नया से इन्वेंट नहीं करना पड़ेगा क्योंकि पंचायत को वही चीज़ नहीं पता होता है कि हम कैसे एसडीजीज को लोकलाइज करेंगे और लोगों को उससे जोड़ेंगे. चिल्ड्रन एंड फैमिलीज गांव के ही हैं और हमारे लिए वो स्कीम्स बने हुए हैं, और तभी हम कंट्री लेवल जो एसडीज है वो लिंक कर पाएंगे. तो आई थिंक उसके ऊपर भी फोकस होनी चाहिए कि हाउ वी कैन इम्पैक्ट एट द एसडीज लेवल थ्रू लोकल गवर्नेंस प्लानिंग एंड स्ट्रेंथनिंग. तो डेटा इज रियली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इसलिए
थैंक यू शुभदीप जी. आई नो समय बहुत कम है अब हमारे पास, और अभी हमारे स्पीकर्स और मॉडरेटर्स यहाँ हैं. यू कैन कैच होल्ड ऑफ देम ड्यूरिंग द हाई टी and don't let them run. Okay, so before we move to the closing remark, can I request everyone to just for a picture that we can hold the booklet in our hands and take a picture. Yeah, you can sit and just keep the pictures. Anas, from here. Yeah. Yes, for family strengthening. Yes, yes.
You can say something also to look beautiful.
The family strengthening. Yes. Thank you, Anas. And thank you so much to the participant. Now we are moving to the concluding remark, and I would request Vandana ma'am from UNICEF to please come on the stage and give the concluding remark.
Just keep it very quick. I think everybody has said Is it on? Yeah. Okay. So I think most has already been said, but I just want to again thank everybody who has been involved in developing this site since 2019, and also to IACN for holding it together and having the patience to put it together through all these years, all the consultations, the webinars, the desk research. So I would especially like to thank Beth also for supporting us through the way, changing the way we care, CRS and IACN and everybody else who has been involved with this across the states. And also want to specially say that thank you to all our panelists who have come from all over the country. Very, very grateful to you all to spare this time to be with us on this very, very important issue of family. I think families is the crux, and the child's right to a family is the basis for everything that we do here. So I think the whole angle of prevention of family separation and how do we strengthen families, this whole work that we are doing is so critical. So a big thank you to all our panelists and for sharing with us very, very good insights. It's been a lot of learning. And I also want to say the importance of multi-sectoral coordination, intersectoral work is coming out more and more. Leaving an inclusion of children with disability, not leaving anyone behind, is something that we need to keep reinforcing. And everywhere we go, whenever we speak, I think this is something that we really need to keep right in front out there and not at the back, that, inclusion is so critical. And not one size will fit all, I mean, we know from working with children across the country, diversity in India is something that we also thrive with and are proud of. So I think that is something that we need to, when we are working on this issue, is something that also we need to keep in mind, is the diversity, and also the issues of, like when we were discussing today, it says it takes a village to raise a child, right? And a child, no family can be looked at in isolation. It's the whole ecosystem that we are working with. So keeping all that in mind, including issues which were so rightly brought out today, that how do we bring services to the doorsteps of families so that families can access services within the community and they don't have to travel long distances to be able to access services such as for disability, for mental health, and other such services which are causing barriers, which lead to separation of families. So those are things which were highlighted today. And so this family strengthening manual is not actually it's more like a roadmap, what Beth says. So now I hope that we can all take it back with us, reflect, and see in all the states where we are working how this can now be stepwise rolled out and adapted to see that, the context in which we are working. And then post this, maybe after a few months, maybe 6-8 months, we come back and take stock and see how it's moving. Is it moving well? What are the challenges? What needs to be tweaked? What needs to be changed? Maybe we have revisions next year with the 16th Finance Commission recommendations. I don't know what the next recommendations would look like next year, but we can review all of this, keeping in mind this. And of course, continue to work with the ministries and departments on collaboration between the different sectors, including Ministry of Panchayati Raj and WCD, especially for notification on the utilization of the funds. So on this note, I'll say thank you so very much to everybody for being here, and to IAC and Kavita for holding this together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, we conclude the event. And I would request everyone to please join us for the high tea. Thank you. And this document, those who are here online, we will be sharing the document online, and it's also available on our website. So please do visit the IACN website at www.iacn.in. And thank you so much for joining us online. Thank you, everyone, for joining.